So welcome back. So this is PT-365 updated material. Okay, part 1. Let us start with the environment section in this. So PT-365 updated part 1 we are dealing with, and this is environment section. First news is about Aravalis. The Supreme Court stayed its previous judgment related to the definition of Aravali Hill Range. So this issue is related to a debate on the definition of Aravali Range. See, Aravali Range is in India and we have not agreed on its definition. So where is this Aravali? If you see Aravali, the extent of Aravali, so it is in the northwestern part of India, from Delhi through Haryana, through Rajasthan and till Gujarat. Okay, so these are the 4 states or UT that passes through, Aravali passes through. Okay, this is very important because it is in news, you should remember this. Now, what is the debate? Okay, and let us know the basic details of Aravali first. So it is one of the oldest mountain ranges of India. So it is not newly formed like Himalaya. Okay, so it is not young, it is old. So what do I mean by old? So if a mountain is young, it will be very high and it stays high like Mount Everest. If something is old, so it might have already got denuded over the years. It might got eroded through air, water, etc. over the years. So their heights will be very lesser and their ecological system is very well developed. If something is old, it means it is a very well developed ecosystem with rich biodiversity, with very good enough groundwater resources, etc. Very well developed minerals. Okay, so it has enough time, over millions of years. Many significant minerals might have got developed. So which will not be the case with the young mountains. Okay, that is very important to understand here. So it was from the Precambrian era and it predates the formation of Himalaya ranges. Highest peak Guru Shikhar on Mount Abu. Rivers originating from Aravalis. Rivers are very, very important from UPSC perspective. So if you see this, what are the rivers here? West flowing Luni River, Sabarmati River, and east flowing river Banas, north flowing Sahibi River. Significance. So what is the significance? What is the importance or contributions of Aravali to India? Okay, Aravali as an ecosystem, what are the advantages of it? The regulation of climate, temperature and monsoon cycle of India. So it regulates climate, it regulates temperature, it regulates monsoons. Okay. Example, by influencing wind patterns and stabilizing soil, the hill reduces dust storms. So if you see in this northwestern part through this Delhi, Haryana, Rajasthan, Gujarat, if this is the northwestern part of India, on the left side of it we have Thar desert. Okay, on the right side we have Madhya Pradesh, this Chambal Valley, etc. So Madhya Pradesh is one of the states with highest forests in India. So see the complete contrast. Desert and a forest ecosystem. What is separating it? It is nothing but the Aravalis. And it is ensuring this desert does not extend towards this east side of this Aravali. And when winds come, it diverts towards the eastern side. So that is also one of the advantage you can see. And it is also preventing the dust storms. Barrier against the eastward expansion of the Thar desert into the Indo-Gangetic plains, just like I told you. Critical groundwater recharge zone. So it is a very critical groundwater recharge zone for replenishing aquifers that support agriculture, settlements and industry, etc. So Chambal, Sabarmati, Luni rivers dependent on Aravalis. So these are the rivers that either originate in this Aravali or passes through using this Aravali. And this groundwater recharge zone, which means it is very important for the water levels in the surrounding regions, including Delhi. It is rich in minerals such as limestone, marble, sandstone, copper, zinc, tungsten, etc. Okay, so like see, because Aravali is in news, the very debate is related to mining actually. So why we are debating the definition of Aravali? Because if something is part of Aravali, we will not be allowing mining in that region. If something is not part of Aravali, mining is allowed in that region. Okay, so most important thing is to what extent we can allow mining, because mining might have commercial benefits, but it destroys that particular area ecologically, and it will have negative consequences on the people living on that region, animals and biodiversity in that region. So it is very important to define Aravali in a broadest way, in the broader manner, if you want to protect Aravali, if you want to conserve. But if you see from the commercial perspective, the definition of Aravali should be very narrow, so that I can mine in the maximum possible area. So those people who are pro mining lobby, they are trying to narrow the definition of Aravali, what constitutes Aravali. Those people who are pro environment, they are trying to make this definition of Aravali in a broadest way. So because my point is mining is at the core of the ongoing issue. So because there are some people interested in mining, you should know what are the minerals available in this area. So if you see, first of all, marble. So marble in this region is world famous. Marble in this Aravali area is world famous. So you should know the marble as a mineral available in that region. And let me tell you about copper availability in this region. If you read ancient history, you will read that Indus Valley people has got copper from this region using some mines called K3 mines. So please link to that. Okay, so since ancient times, copper mines in this Aravali region are very, very famous, K3 mines. Then zinc. There are another mines called Jawar mines in this region. So it is very important for zinc. So apart from these three, which are very, very world famous, you will also get like limestone, sandstone, tungsten. Okay, so these are the minerals available in this Aravali region. Now, what are the threats Aravali mountains are facing? Illegal mining, urban expansion, and encroachment and invasive species, etc. Now, what are some initiatives taken to protect Aravalis? Mantri 1 initiative. So, the initiatives taken by government till now. Mantri 1 initiative launched in Gurugram to develop 750-acre urban forest in the Aravali Hills as a part of the Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam. So, Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam literally means in English, one tree in the name of the mother. So, they want to develop 750-acre urban forest. They want to create in this Aravali Hills 750-acre urban forest. Okay. It was launched in Gurugram and its initiative name is Mantri 1 initiative. Aravali Green Wall Project. So if you see, there is something called Great Green Wall Project in Africa. So they want to protect this Sahel region in Africa, which is like the central mid region in the Africa, from the Sahara Desert, the northernmost region of Africa. So you can Google Sahara and Sahel region in Africa. So between this Sahara and this Sahel, they are planning something called, they are already implementing something called Great Green Wall Project. It is the world's largest continuous green cover. So they want to protect the southern region from the expansion of the Sahara Desert. So inspired from this Great Green Wall Project of Africa, we are implementing Aravali Green Wall Project. So if you see this northwestern region, what we are talking about, from Delhi to Gujarat, through Haryana, Rajasthan. So along this Aravali, we form this green cover of 5 meter wide, 5 meter wide, okay, to protect these eastern regions from the expansion of the Thar Desert. So that is what Aravali Green Wall Project initiative to green 5 kilometer buffer area around the Aravali Hill Range in 4 states. MC Mehta versus Union of India case, in a series of judgments, Supreme Court acknowledged the importance of Aravali and called for its protection at any cost. So what is the Supreme Court judgment related to this protection of Aravali? It is MC Mehta versus Union of India case. Now let us come to the present issue. So why there is a debate on definition, and Supreme Court has stayed its own previous judgment. That means it has given some previous judgment. Right now it is staying, withholding its own judgment. So what is that? So let me tell you one thing. Like, so if you see, this is like representative image of Aravali, like it is shown in the reverse side from the perspective of like Delhi. If you see from the Delhi, it will have this Thar Desert on one side, and this green ecosystem on another side. This is representative image. Okay. So if you see, these are old mountains. So and many rivers are passing through it. So it might not be continuous and it's not very taller. And it is very important from the environmental perspective. So I have to protect it. I have to protect Aravali. So there is no debate on that. Now the debate is on what is Aravali and what is not. If there is a small mountain, very tiny mountain, is it part of Aravali? If there is a small elevation, let's say 50 meters, can I call it a mountain or not? So that is the debate. Because if I call it a mountain, then government cannot allow mining in that area. Government cannot allow private party to destroy that mountain and the forest cover around it. But if something is not defined as Aravali, like see, between this mountain and this mountain, there is empty space. Now there is some gap between the mountains also. Now, if there is a long gap, can I call it a plain area and can I allow mining in it? Or that area between the mountains also becomes part of Aravali hill range. So this is how the debate goes. So it is basically about the height and the range, the space between the Aravali mountains. So if you see, this is not the new debate. It is going on for many years, almost since 1995. So if you see, forget this. There is something confusing here. Let me tell you one thing. So last year, because there is a long pending debate on what is Aravala and what is not. Already there are like multiple committees. Government has appointed one committee. It comes with some definition. Now, people are divided. Some people want a narrower definition. Some people want broader definition to include more and more area in Aravali. So whatever the report comes, if it is giving broader definition, it will be criticized by some sections. If it is giving a narrow definition of Aravali, it will be criticized by some other sections. So there are multiple committees continuously coming up with the definitions of this. And in May 2024, Supreme Court has told this Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change to form a new committee to recommend a definition of Aravali that balances all types of interests. And based on this newly, and government has formed a new committee, and that committee came up with a definition like this. It said, I will consider those hills which are only at least 100 meters high as a part of Aravali hills. So if there is a small hill of 80 or 70 meters, even if it is in between these Aravali mountains, I will not call that Aravali. What does that mean? That means it can be mined. Then what becomes a range? Like if there are two mountains, what is the maximum distance that can be allowed between those two? Now what about this area in between? So this committee says limit is 500. If the gap is more than 500, then it is not part of Aravali. If it is only less than 500 between two hills of Aravali, then only I am considering it as part of Aravali. If it is more than 500, now this area does not come under the definition of Aravali. That means this area can be mined. Now a committee came up with this definition. In November 2025, initially Supreme Court has accepted this definition. But then Supreme Court initiative was very much criticized. You are the Supreme Court, you are supposed to protect the environment from these commercial exploiters, but you are agreeing with the government's definition. Government has accepted this committee definition. Eventually Supreme Court has accepted it. So because there was criticism, okay, during this judgment, Supreme Court also told to prepare a management plan for sustainable mining on the lines of Sarada mining plan from the Jharkhand. Okay, because there is criticism, now Supreme Court has stayed its own judgment of this November one. Okay, whatever the acceptance it has done in November, now Supreme Court has stayed it. So new Supreme Court has clearly told all the states completely ban new mining leases. So no more new mining from now on. But what about the already granted mining leases? Where can they mine? Where can they cannot mine? Okay, now that is up for the debate. So what happened after this is that they have appointed another committee. Again, this is like third or fourth committee. Now this new committee is still studying. Now it will come up with another definition. So still the issue is not settled. It is still ongoing. So I hope you have understood the whole core issue. We have discussed it very comprehensively. Now let us come to the next topic, solid waste management rules. So Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has notified solid waste management rules 2026. They have replaced the solid waste management rules of 2016. So what is this solid waste management rules? Let us see. So if we see, we as humans, we generate various types of wastage. We generate municipal wastage, household wastage, we generate biomedical wastage from the hospitals, etc. And we generate plastic wastage, radio wastage. Okay, there is electronic wastage, all our used computers, used smartphones, used ACs, okay, electrical and electronic wastage. So there are various kinds of wastage. So what government does? Government needs to protect the environment from these different kinds of wastes. Because take plastic. Now what is happening with plastic? Plastic is not biodegradable. It is entering oceans, even on the land and in the ocean. Many animals are confusing it with food resource, so they are eating it and they are dying from it, or they are getting stuck in the plastic. Then this plastic is also breaking into smaller tiny plastic called microplastic or nanoplastic, and even we humans are ingesting it. So there will be microplastic and nanoplastic in the food you are eating, in the water you are drinking. So it is already proved that this microplastic has already entered our blood cells. So now plastic has entered even the blood of the humans, and this plastic has many consequences like cancer. So there will be many negative consequences out of wastage. So waste needs to be managed properly to protect environment and also human health. For this purpose, government comes up with various guidelines under this Environmental Protection Act. So under the Environment Protection Act, it will issue various guidelines like solid waste management rules, plastic waste management rules, electronic waste management rules, biomedical waste management rules. So different kinds of rules for managing different kinds of waste under the same act, Environment Protection Act. It tells that how to properly dispose. If you are generating plastic, who are the people having the responsibility? How, to what extent you can recycle, to what extent you can burn it, just incinerate it, okay, or to what extent you have to put it in landfills, and who are the primary persons responsible, what will be the punishment if you are not following it, and how to segregate waste, like when we are generating household waste which becomes the part of solid waste. So all the waste human generate on day-to-day basis, like from our homes, from the food we eat, from the shops, commercial outlets outside. Now all of this becomes part of solid waste. How to segregate it? Okay, all of these are given in these rules. So if you see, first of all, if you are just leaving the waste outside, either it can degrade normally, which we call biodegradation, or it may not mix with the environment, which is non-biodegradable. Now, if something is biodegradable, we don't have a problem. Like the peel of a banana. So banana peel normally goes into the, I mean, we don't want to throw waste anywhere. So first of all, we want cleaner streets to protect us from the diseases. So disposing properly means, can you put it in a place where it can degrade naturally? Or if something does not degrade naturally, now what we can do with it? Either we can put it in a landfill. See here on the leftmost side. So landfill means you are just putting all the wastage at a single place. You are literally cramping it and you are covering it with the soil so that on the surface it looks normal, but you are disposing all the waste. Now you can incinerate it. You can just burn the waste because it is non-biodegradable. Okay. You can compact the waste, put the waste, like you can compress it in the very less space. Okay. Now you can use it for biogas generation. So many materials, if you can if you can put them under the lack of anaerobic conditions, like without oxygen, sometimes it converts into various types of fuels like biogas. You can use them for compost, which we can use as fertilizers. Okay, vermicomposting. Vermicomposting means using this species like worms. Okay. So there are different ways, types of disposal, but everything comes with some certain advantages and disadvantages. Like if you see landfill, so when I put it in a landfill, now what will happen if there is a rain? Now all the harmful chemicals, metals in this wastage, which I have put it inside the soil, now that will creep further into the soil, into the groundwater. Okay, and surrounding areas will suffer from the smell of the landfill, and all the animals like rats, birds, which are roaming in this landfill for food, now they will carry the diseases and viruses, etc., bacteria, etc., into the surrounding areas. Now take incineration. If you incinerate something, now it will create air pollution. Okay, so everything, if you create waste compaction, now where will you put it? So everything comes with some certain advantages and disadvantages. So it is very important to dispose of everything in the least harming way, least harmful way. So we should try to recycle maximum number of items to reutilize. So these new rules, they will come into effect with effect from April 1, 2026. So different type of waste management rules under Environment Protection Act. One of it is solid waste management rules. And these new rules are revised after 10 years. So completely new rules government has brought in. So they integrate the principles of circular economy. So what is circular economy? As I told you, so you produce wastage, you use some items, you produce wastage. Now what will happen to those items? If you can recycle it and you can make new items with the same wastage, then that means, so you are producing something, you are using something, now wastage is produced. Now if you can reuse them, recycle them, then circle is complete. Now there is no net wastage. So this kind of circular economy is usually preferred, whether it is for plastic or metal, for steel or for anything, circular economy is preferred. If you are not recycling, you are producing something, you are using it, now waste is generated. Now you are not now you are not reusing it, then it is called linear economy. So we prefer circular economy. So these rules are made in a such a way that it encourages circular economy. Now extended producer responsibility, this is not a new concept, it is old concept only. So what is this extended producer responsibility? So producer has an extended responsibility of managing the waste also. What does producer do? Usually he will produce things and he will sell to the consumers and he will leave. But this concept, extended producer concept, says, sir, whatever the waste you have generated out of your activities, even though literally customer is generating it, but you have the responsibility to manage the waste. So how this works? Like if you take like a water bottle company, let's say I'm a water bottle seller, a branded water bottle I'm selling, let's say 1 lakh water bottles every year. So out of 1 lakh water bottles, I will sell those were consumed by the customers, and there will be a 1 lakh plastic water bottles as a wastage. Now as a producer, I have to gather somewhere equal amount, not literally the 1 lakh I have sold, any 1 lakh plastic water bottles I have to gather, and I have to recycle them and use them into my new products. So this is called extended producer responsibility. So government will give rules. Who can do that? Can I do I have to directly do that, or can I appoint a middleman, or can I put a schemes like any customer who returns the water bottle, empty water bottle after usage, he will be given 2 rupees back. So through various activities, anyway, the net wastage I have to reduce. This is called extended producer responsibility. Okay, it is now government applying for many types of wastage, not just plastic or one thing, whether it is electric or anything. Government is encouraging this extended producer responsibility. Now, what are the key provisions under these rules? So, under this, it is mandatory to segregate waste into 4 streams: wet waste, dry waste, sanitary waste, and special care waste. Like wet waste means not literally that wet waste with water. So, it means that anything that is biodegradable, you have to separate it. You cannot mix dry waste with wet waste. That means those things which cannot biodegrade, like plastic, with the things that can biodegrade, like let's say fruits. Okay, leftover of the fruits. So wet waste which is biodegradable, we can use it for bioenergy generation, biofuel generation, etc. Okay, plastic we try to recycle. Sanitary waste, sanitary napkins, this menstrual pads, etc. Then special care wastage, any other kind of special care wastage generated on regular basis. So there are different segregations of wastage. Then definition of bulk waste generators. Now you see ordinary waste generators like households. Then there are bulk waste generators like government departments, big buildings, okay, government office at a place, residential societies, local bodies, etc. So residential bodies like a large gated community, how much waste it generates? It generates so much of waste, so it can be called bulk waste generator. So they have some responsibilities under this new rules. Okay, so they have to ensure sound waste collection, transport, and processing. They have to process wet waste on site wherever possible. So these biodegradable waste, if possible, on the site it has to be processed or obtain extended bulk waste generator responsibility certificate. Extended bulk waste generator framework holds that bulk waste generators accountable for solid waste generated by them. So the waste they are generating, especially biodegradable waste, they have to dispose of on the site. Like there may be a biofuel generator system within that gated community where everyone deposits this wet wastage, which will be used to generate like biogas, which they can further use for various purposes. Or they have to get this certificate that they are disposing this wet waste in other proper way. Okay. So there are rules like this. Then there is a centralized online portal to track this solid waste management at various phases: registration, authorization, audit of waste processing facilities. Like waste processing facilities, I told you, like landfills and this biogas generation plants. Okay, all of these are waste processing facilities. Incineration facility. Then use of refuse derived fuel by industries mandated. So what is refuse derived fuel? See the name, refuse. Refuse means the waste generated, it is the refuse. Now any kind of fuel derived from them. Example, again I'm coming to biogas. So any kind of fuel which you can derive from this refuse or wastage is called refuse derived fuel. So it is produced by shredding or dehydrating municipal solid waste with high calorific value, primarily consisting of non-recyclable plastic, paper, and textiles. So shredding means cutting into smaller entities, and dehydrating means letting it dry. Okay. So if you shred and dehydrate this municipal solid waste, which we generate every day, it is very high in calorific value. That means it can give energy. It has some value, calorific value. It can burn, primarily consisting of non-recyclable plastic, paper, and textiles. So this refuse derived fuel, which is generated under the new rules, now they have to be used by some industries. It is mandatory for some industries to use some portion of this refuse derived fuel, like cement plants, waste to energy plants, etc. Restriction on landfilling. So I shown you landfills, those places where you will put this wastage and cover with soil. Landfills, now mandatory annual audits are mandatory. Annual audits are mandatory. Mapping, assessment of all legacy waste dump sites will be done. Okay. Providing biomining and bioremediation. So to reduce the impacts, as I told you, there are different kinds of negative impacts with different kinds of disposal methods. So to reduce the impacts, we can utilize some methods like biomining. So biomining means mining an area using biological entities like bacteria. So instead of physically removing anything, like let's say in a waste dump site, in a landfill, now if you can put some bacteria that can eat either plastic or any heavy harmful metals or chemicals in that landfill, now it will reduce the impact on the environment. So here you can see biomining. Then there is bioremediation. Again, it is also similar, like whether it is oil spill or some kind of wastage, whether by generating plants or using some bacteria, if you can reduce the harmful impacts on the environment, it is called bioremediation. Okay, mining specifically refers to mining using biological methods rather than this physical drilling, etc., etc. Using biological methods, if you do the mining, it is biomining. Landfills have been strictly restricted to non-recyclable, non-energy recoverable wastage and inert material. So you cannot use landfill to dump biodegradable. So you can see throughout the rules, if something is biodegradable, they are trying to dispose it as soon as possible because it can naturally mix with the environment. It is not so harmful. So landfills already, it takes so much space. Landfills take physical space. They have so much disadvantages on the surrounding population. They attract birds, insects, rats, etc. So if you mix this wet waste or biodegradable, now the problem is more complicated. So they are trying to dispose wet waste as soon as possible. And landfills, they are using exclusively for, they are increasing exclusively only for non-recyclable, non-energy recoverable waste and inert material. So simply say, try to utilize waste again, circular economy. As much as wastage, if you can use it again, use it. Only that wastage which you cannot use, there is no utility at all. Only that wastage you put it in landfill. Okay, it takes less space also. Solid waste management in hilly areas and islands. So hilly areas like Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh and island, Andaman Nicobar Island, Lakshadweep, etc. So you see, these areas by default, they produce very less solid wastage, but the problem is tourism is very high in these areas, and these areas produce so much of solid waste mainly because of tourism. Okay, so local bodies can levy user fees on tourist and regulate tourist inflow to manage solid waste in these areas. Next, there are some guidelines for hilly areas and islands also. That is the point. Then environmental compensation. So any kind of damage arising out of it, rules also specify how this compensation will be provided, like levied based on polluter pays principle for non-compliance. So if anybody is polluting, not properly following these guidelines, and anybody is receiving negative consequences because of this, the compensation is recovered from the polluter himself. Okay, so polluter pays principle. So this is about the new rules. If you see the status of solid waste management in India, so 55 to 60% of waste, solid waste we are generating, it is biodegradable. So only of 60% is biodegradable, 40% of the wastage we are producing is non-biodegradable. So what you have to do, either you have to recycle it or you have to dispose it in other proper way. And among this remaining 40%, up to 20% is recyclable. So the remaining 15 to 25% is very hazardous and it is non-recyclable. So this, if you see the nature of wastage being generated in India, this is the reality. Okay, only 60 to 70% of the waste is collected. So we are not even collecting 30% of the wastage. It is still in the environment openly. And even among the waste we are collecting, only 15 to 20% we are processing. That means literally we are dumping all the remaining waste somewhere. 60% of total waste generation is from urban areas. So if you see like approximate reality, 40% of population living in urban areas, 60% of people living in rural areas. But waste generation is reverse. 40% of people living in urban areas are producing 60% of the wastage. 60% of rural areas people who are living in rural areas, they are generating 40% of the wastage. Now, we know we have a problem with emissions in the climate change. So emissions are like they come from agriculture, they come from transport, etc. All these greenhouse gas emissions. So how much of these emissions coming from waste sector? 2.56%. Okay. Now, general legal framework for this waste management. So as I told you, we have the solid waste management rules, plastic waste management rules, electronic waste management rules, e-wastage. E-wastage means both electrical and electronic. Then construction and demolition waste management rules, biomedical waste management rules. All of these are issued under Environmental and Protection Act. So moving on to the next topic, which is dynamic groundwater resource assessment. So groundwater resource assessment. So we are talking about groundwater. So first let us see some basics, then we can see some previous year questions also. So what is the situation of groundwater resources of India? So we have water below the surface. It is what we call groundwater. Now we utilize this groundwater for various purposes. We dig wells, etc., or bore wells, pumps, etc. We use this for agriculture, for drinking, for daily usage, etc. Okay. So if you see, India is the world's largest consumer of groundwater. We are the world's largest consumer of groundwater with 25% of total global extraction. So of the total groundwater extracted across the world, we are extracting 1/4. If you see the sectoral usage, which sectors are using so much of groundwater? 60% of the groundwater we are taking out of the earth, we are utilizing it for irrigation. That means for agriculture. Then, sorry, it is reverse. So of the total water we are using for irrigation, like we can take from groundwater, we can use from rivers, etc. Of all the irrigation, we are groundwater contains 64%. So 36% is from non-groundwater sources like ponds, rivers, etc., etc. Okay, artificial dams, etc. So our irrigation significantly depends on groundwater. That means using bore wells, pumps, etc. Then of the drinking water we are providing to rural areas, 85% of that is coming from groundwater. And after of the water we are providing to urban areas, 50% of that is coming from groundwater. So of the 87% water we are extracting, we are using it agriculture sector. So this is the one I am telling before. So of the total water we are extracting from the ground, 87% we are using it for agriculture sector itself. So only 13% we are using for other purposes like drinking, okay, or household usage. Okay. So 11% in domestic sector, etc. And this is coming from annual groundwater quality report. Okay. Now I will come to the present news. Let me explain the background, then I will come to the present news. So this is about the groundwater usage in India. Then we are using so much of groundwater. Now what are the concerns with it? Especially when we are drinking, we are bothered with the composition of this groundwater because heavy metals cause different kinds of issues. So if you see nitrate pollution in water, drinking water is a problem in Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. Fluoride is a problem in Haryana, Karnataka and Telangana also. Arsenic pollution is a big problem in the floodplains of Ganga and Brahmaputra rivers. This is actually in trending. This is in news. So in these plain areas of Ganga and Brahmaputra, arsenic is a big problem, arsenic pollution. Uranium pollution is a problem in Rajasthan and Punjab groundwaters. So this is the situation. Now, what is the scenario of groundwater regulation in India? So we are seeing so much of data and someone has to monitor the usage of the groundwater. So what is the system in India? So if you see, in India, there are two bodies. People get confused. So that is why I'm showing you here. There are two bodies. One is Central Groundwater Board and Central Groundwater Authority. So we have two. One is Groundwater Board and one is Groundwater Authority. So this authority, if you see, it is a regulatory body. It regulates who can use groundwater and who can who cannot use. For which purpose groundwater should be used, for which purpose it cannot be used. And it is a statutory body under this Environmental Protection Act. Okay, it is a statutory body under this Environmental Protection Act. And it is a regulatory body. It has direct powers. It has powers. It has to issue no objection certificate for various kinds of usage. Okay, for industries, mining, infrastructure projects, etc. It has the power to regulate. It can take legal action. It can impose penalties. So it is a very powerful body, and it is a statutory body. Okay. Then if you see, there is another similar sounding body called Central Groundwater Board. So both of these deal with groundwater. I'm only talking about groundwater. It is a technical agency. It is not a regulatory agency. It is a technical agency. What does technical agency mean? It just studies about the groundwater. It has no real power. It tries to see where are the resources. It does surveys, it monitoring how people are using, what is the situation, what is the composition of groundwater at various places in India. And this groundwater board, it is under the Ministry of Water Resources. It was established in 1970, and it has monitoring stations across India. So based on that, it provides various reports and assessments of the groundwater. Now see these previous year questions asked in 2020. So this was asked in 2020 prelims. So they are saying 36% of Indian districts are classified as overexploited or critical by the Central Groundwater Authority. 36%. So very high, 36% overexploited, critical, very alarming scenario. If this is true, then Central Groundwater Authority was formed under the Environment Protection Act. So this is true, we already know. This is whether it is true or not, only you could have known based on that year data. So we are about to read a certain report right now, that is a current affair. So similarly, that year some report might have came. So based on that, you have to assess whether 36% is right or not. But second statement, we know it is true. Now India has the largest area under groundwater irrigation in the world. So this is also factual. So we are the nation using most groundwater. We are also the nation which is using most area for groundwater in irrigation. So the statement 3 is true. So 2 and 3 are right. First is false because it is not 36%. So we are over exploiting groundwater, but it's still only 15%, not 36%. Okay, it is only 15%, not 36%. If you see, same again, given the same for this groundwater resource. So it is headquartered. Now we are talking about this board, which is under this Ministry of Jal Shakti. So it is headquartered in Faridabad, Haryana. Okay, as I already shown you, it is established in 1970. Okay, so this Central Groundwater Authority members might be same, or people might be same, but when you call Central Groundwater Authority, it is a statutory thing established under the Environment Protection Act, and it have regulatory powers. Now let us come to the present news. Now we have seen the background of groundwater usage in India. Now let us see the present news. So Central Groundwater Board and states UTs jointly published National Compilation on Dynamic Groundwater Resources of India 2025. So Central Groundwater Board, we know it produces so many reports. So we, along with some states and UTs, it produces something called National Compilation on Dynamic Groundwater Resources of India 2025. So as per this, you can see the scenario. So areas, units like districts, etc., they will classify units. Total India, they will divide like some 500, 600 units. So now number of units, they will categorize as like saline, safe, semi-critical, critical, overexploited, etc. So overexploited means they are using too much of groundwater, then it is recharging. Like see, what is the sustainable usage? For a simple example, I'm saying very simple example to comprehend. If there is, let's say, 100 liters of groundwater in a given place. Now, groundwater forms naturally with rain, etc., with our disposal of water, and it is seeping into the ground or from below. Water naturally comes under the surface, which we call groundwater. It gets naturally refilled every frequently. Let's say every month, 100 liters of water gets replenished in a given area A. So if there is 100 liters of water forming every month in that area, the maximum I can use 100 liters of water for that particular month. But what if I'm over exploiting, like I am using so much of water, that means I am using more usage than its natural replenishment rate. I am exploiting, I am trying to extract 150, 200 from it. So, I mean, when I take 100, there is always continuously 100. There is some water continuously under groundwater. So, water getting refilled again and again, I am using again and again. My impact is not severe. But if I over exploit, the refilling will be slower and my utilization is faster. Then it is called over exploitation. Sooner or later, we will use that complete area. So, this is called over exploitation. So groundwater extraction exceeding annually. Here they have taken annually, in example only outside monthly. So replenishable groundwater recharge. So those areas are 10.8% of the total country. So if you can see in this PVQ also, they are mentioned 36. It is not 36, only 10.8%. So critical, those areas which are very critical in usage, that means they are almost 90 to 100% utilizing all the water being generated. It is 2.97% of the total units in the country. So in the 11.2 percentage of areas in the country, the usage is semi-critical, 70 to 90%. What is the safe usage? 70% of the water, if you use compared to the recharge rate, it is safe. And 73% of areas are utilizing safe in a safe manner. That is fine. And 1.8% of areas are experiencing brackish or saline groundwater. It is salty. Okay, it is unfit for most usages. So state usage with 25% or this is for the throughout the country. Now it might not be the same in every state. Some states might be over exploiting, some states might not be over exploiting, using safely. So if you see state wise, there are some states which are over utilizing more than 25% over exploiting the ground resources, over exploiting critical and semi-critical units. These are Haryana, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Punjab, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi and Puducherry. So if you see these northwestern states, Haryana, central and northwestern states, Haryana, UP, MP, Rajasthan, Punjab, so Delhi, so this belt, literally like this belt, previously we have seen Aravali. So more or less all the states in this Aravali range, they are already exploiting groundwater. So if you link this current affair with the previous current affair, protection of Aravali becomes very important. So Haryana, Delhi, UP, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh. So in this central northwestern belt is over exploiting. Other than that, we have Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. So the southern region, these are over exploiting regions for groundwater. So other regions like eastern region, Odisha, Bengal or northeastern region, so they are not over exploiting the groundwater resources. Key highlights of the report in comparison to the 2024 total annual groundwater recharge, annual extractable groundwater resources in comparison to the 2024 total annual groundwater recharge. If you compare with the 2024 total annual groundwater recharge, annual extractable groundwater resources and total annual groundwater resource extraction increased marginally in 2025. So compared to 2024, in 2025 our usage has increased. Stage of groundwater extraction. Stage of groundwater extraction, so marginally increased to 60.63%. Stage of groundwater extraction measures how much underground water we are using compared to how much is naturally put back. Okay. So there it is like a literally ratio, how much we are using and how much that amount is getting recharged. This ratio they are calling stage of groundwater extraction. So it is 60.63% as of now. Okay. So this ratio into 100. Groundwater resources of India current, this we have already seen. So you have seen the groundwater usage and you have seen the latest report released by Central Groundwater Board. So next topic is this International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. So next topic is International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. ITPG RFA. So let us see what is it. It is an international treaty and it is for protection of plant genetic resources. So genetic resources. So all species, plants and animals have something called DNA. So the combination of DNA is unique for every species. So that combination of DNA is what we call genetic material. When we use that for our purpose, it becomes a genetic resource. So there are some good varieties of rice. There are some premium varieties of rice like basmati. Okay, so plant genetic resources are an important thing. It is very essential. So for food and agriculture. Now it was adopted in 2001 at a Food and Agricultural Organization FAO's conference. It came into force in 2004. It is the first legally binding treaty on crop genetic diversity. Okay. Then key objectives: conserve crop diversity. So to protect that crop diversity, so that see, if we don't protect, what will happen? Everybody will cultivate the most famous rice in demand. So everybody will be trying to cultivate only one or very few types of crops. We lose all the other traditionally cultivated high value products. Okay. So to conserving crop diversity is a very essential thing. Sustainable use of genetic resources. So resources of any kind, not just genetic resources, they shall be used sustainably and in a fair way. Like, let's say if there is an American company, they have come here and they have studied how various Indians are cultivating different types of rice. In India, if you see, there are many different types of rice, tens and tens of different types of rice. There is black rice, there is brown rice. So there are various modifications of rice. Now I am just telling an example using rice. This is for applicable for all crops. So various types of crops we have, which are some of which are very highly nutritious. Now these companies, let's say there is some important millet, it is very high resource. Now the companies got to know of the nutrition and the importance of this millet only when they came and studied a particular tribe or particular traditional community in India. But then they will go back to their country and they will make some products. So ready to eat products, weight loss products, etc. So you can find many such products on Swiggy and Zomato, on Jepto, etc. these days. So different kinds of seeds, etc. Like chia seeds, pumpkin seeds. So when you are getting some knowledge from a particular community and when you are benefiting by commercializing it, those traditional communities also should get their due share. So that is what we call fair and equitable benefit sharing. It's not that only rich companies only profit from them. Everybody who is a stakeholder should get some benefit out of it. So who are the members of this international treaty on plant genetic resources for food and agriculture? So total 154 countries plus European Union, and yes, India is a member. So in this background, now let us read about this. Why it is in news? It is in news because 11th session of governing body of this treaty was recently concluded in this city of Lima in Peru. Failure of talks on enhancement of multilateral system for functioning of access and benefit sharing. So they want to develop a multilateral system for this access and benefit sharing, but talks were failed, not so good. This multilateral system governs sharing of genetic resources from 35 major food crops and 29 forages. These forage crops which are used for feeding animals. They make up about 80% of world's plant-based diet, described in Annexure 1 of the treaty. So different types of crops they wanted to include under a system ensuring rules of access and benefit sharing, but talks were not so successful. A country who adopts this treaty agrees to make genetic diversity of these crops, particularly from public gene banks, available to all other members through multilateral system. So anybody who is signing this treaty and they have this data, Now they have to share with all the other members. Okay. Compromise proposal at 11th session. Revised standard material transfer agreement. So there is something called standard material transfer agreement adopted with the decision on the adequate payment rates and thresholds to be approved at this governance body 12. So full agreement they did not agree. So they have done something, a revised less suitable one, which is a compromise at the this time. So this standard material transfer agreement. So this is all talking about genetic material only. Like so, if India has some resource, some knowledge about a particular plant species, let's say there is a particular type of a millet which is very highly nutritious, having very many medicinal properties, some miraculous properties, and now India got to know that, a company in India got to know that with its research. Now, if India is signing this treaty, India has to share with all the other countries. Same with other countries. If USA part of this treaty and USA got some knowledge, now it has to share with all the other countries. Okay, please check whether USA is part or not. I'm just saying as an example. So those kind of agreements we are making. So this SMDA regulates exchanges of plant genetic material, prevents their misuse, fairly and equitably sharing commercial methods. Okay. Now moving on to the next one. Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act 2001. So whatever we are talking about, this protection of this plant genetics resources, etc., we are talking about international level. Now India is already a member of this. So India should do something within the country. Usually what happens, we sign an international convention, then we come back to the country and we create a new act. Okay. Like we have signed this UN Convention on Biological Diversity, we have come to India and we have formed an act called Biodiversity Act. So we sign an international convention, usually we make appropriate national action plans and legislations, etc. So why this protection of plant varieties and farmers' rights? So see here, on one side we are protecting these plant varieties also. And on another side, because India is a agricultural dependent nation, we are also ensuring farmers' rights. So Silver Jubilee of the Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act was celebrated. So 25 years. It's been 25 years since this act has been passed. So this becomes very important for this year. So what is this act? It was enacted to fulfill the enforcement of TRIPS. There is a organization called WTO, World Trade Organization, and you must be knowing that. And under that there are various agreements. One of these is TRIPS agreement. It deals with intellectual property rights. Okay. So this TRIPS, to comply with the TRIPS regulations, we have enacted this act. The TRIPS agreement offer member countries the choice to protect the plant varieties through patents, an effective sui generis system, or a combination of both. So what they can do, they can simply give patients. This TRIPS, this WTO has given option to the member countries. Dear members, you can do one of these three. What are these three options you have? Because you are a member of WTO and we need to protect intellectual property rights. So intellectual property right means, you see, many people, researchers and many companies across the world, they do research and they come up with different kinds of products. Like it may be a medicine, it may be a drug, it may be a treatment, it may be new technology. And they want patent for them so that no other can copy it. Anybody who is using that, they have to pay some royalty to the company who has invented it, and only with their consent they can use it. This is the concept of the patent. Now let's say a company in USA has created a new type of crop. Now if you see the rice, what is the problem with the rice? Rice is very high in carbohydrates. It has less nutrition. The main reason we eat rice is for energy. The processed white rice we eat usually, it does not have much nutrition except the carbohydrates. Let us say a company has created some new variety of rice using some genetic changes or through hybridization. It has created new type of rice which is highly nutritious plus carbohydrates. Okay, so like it has so many vitamins in it, so many minerals in it. So if a company has devised it and it has done after years of research, So that company naturally expects some rights over it because they have invested some manpower, some money power into it. Now they want to get some returns. So for that you can give patents. Only this company can make this new variety of rice under their brand name, or anyone else want to make it. They only can make with their permission by paying due amounts to them. So this is the concept of the patent. So as per WTO TRIPS, we can give patents to plant varieties also. So what is the first option? First option is you can give patents. Dear members, you can give patents to anyone coming up with new plant varieties. What is the second one? You can develop your own unique system. Sui generis means unique. So based on your country reality, like take the example of India. India is a agricultural dependent nation. And if you give patents, more than half of the population in India is in agriculture. If you give patents, if you encourage this patent system, only rich, powerful companies, only they will have the right over these plant varieties. Ordinary farmers, they cannot do agriculture without buying these seeds from these companies, which will be very costly. Okay, so you can develop your own system to. Now, what is the other thing? Now you can do a combination of both. You can mix the patent and also, and you can do the second hybrid option. So you can do both. Like you can have a very limited patent regime and combined with your own unique system. So WTO has given these options to the member countries. Now what India has done? India has opted not to grant patent for the plants, instead choosing to safeguard plant varieties under the sui generis system, its own unique legal framework. Okay, which is this Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmer Right Act. Okay, and it is designed to protect that does not fit neatly into the existing categories. Like whatever the Western countries' perspective, we are not complying with that. So our objective is to establish an effective system for the protection of plant varieties, the rights of farmers and plant breeders. So protection of plant varieties and also rights of the farmers and also plant breeders. Okay, anyone who is breeding these plants and creating new varieties. So and to encourage the development of new plant varieties. At the same time, if you are not rewarding these people or companies who are creating new plant varieties, there will be no innovation. So you have to balance innovation with the outside reality. So it is in conformity with the International Union for Protection of New Varieties of Plant. So there is another organization called International Union for Protection of New Varieties of Plant, and our act is in conformity with this new kind of convention and also protects the interests of the public sector, breeding institutions and the farmers. So that is about this act. Now what are the key provisions? Eligibility for reservation. A variety is eligible for registration if it is essentially fulfills the criteria of distinctiveness, uniformity and stability. What are the key provisions of that? Eligibility for registration. Now, if someone has developed a new variety, how to register that? A variety is eligible for registration if it is essentially fulfills the criteria of distinctiveness, uniformity, and stability. So it should be distinct. It should not be like already existing ones. Okay, and it should be uniform and stable. That means, it should be stable and uniform. Like when you are implementing, there are no side effects, fixed properties. Okay, and it should be repeatable, replicatable. Rights under the act. So breeders' rights. So anyone who is breeding different types of plants, making this hybrid experiment, trying to create a better version of the crops. What are the rights of the breeders? Exclusive rights to produce, sell, market, distribute, import or export the protected variety. So the variety which they have devised, now they have almost like patent, they have some rights. Researchers' rights can use any of the registered varieties for conducting experiments or research. Okay. So any of the registered varieties, researchers can use it. Okay, researchers can use it even though they are not the breeder. This includes the use of varieties as an initial source of variety for the purpose of developing another variety, but repeated use needs prior permission of the registered breeder. Okay, so like some limited number of times research can use it, some limited number of times. But if they want to use extensively, repeatedly, then they have to take permission from the breeders. So some limited rights were given outside of patents. Farmers' rights. Entitled for registration of a new variety and protection in like manner as a breeder of a variety. So see, breeders means those people who are consciously creating new varieties. Their whole intent is to create new varieties. Now farmers are the ones who are cultivating every year. As a part of cultivation over the years, they might do some tiny modifications and they might also create new varieties. So even they are also entitled for registration of a new variety if they have created. So farmers variety can also be registered as an extant variety. So extant means which is already in existence. Like if a farmer is cultivating even for many years and it is not registered now you can register it. Farmers are eligible for recognition and rewards for the conservation of plant genetic resources of land races and wild relatives of economic plants. So for the conservation of land races and wild relatives. So like animals living on the land normally and also in the wild. So these type of plants, economic plants which are having economic benefits. So those type of resources, if someone is conserving, they will get the recognition and rewards. Farmers shall not be entitled to sell branded seed of a variety protected under this act. So he can use a seed, but he is not entitled to sell, okay, any seed of a variety protected this act. So again, we are seeing a limited power being given because they are not allowed to sell. So here land races means more or less like domestic ones. So at a local place, like farmers through their natural cultivation over many generations, whatever they are developing, this land races is like domesticated versions and wild relatives. So which are in the wild. Now benefit sharing. If any organization or individual uses a farmer variety of production, development or breeding, the farmer must receive a share of profits. So if any organization or individual are using a farmer's variety, then of course farmer should be benefited. So we are seeing in the previous topic also, this is what we are talking about when we are saying benefit sharing. Categories of varieties, categorized into three main groups. Extant varieties. Extant means already existing. Okay, extant means here varieties notified under the section 5 of Seed Act and also varieties in the public domain. So whatever already existing is extant varieties. Farmers varieties, communities varieties. These varieties are traditionally cultivated and evolved by the farmers in their fields. The wild relatives, land races which the farmer possesses also fall in this category. So this is in the traditionally cultivated fields. They are not breeders, they are doing agriculture as a part of the agriculture. They are evolving new kinds of varieties, essentially derived varieties. These varieties are predominantly derived from an initial variety that retains the characteristics of the initial variety and is clearly distinguishable from initial variety for at least one such traits. So these are like the newly developed ones from the some initial variety. Okay. Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Authority as a statutory body. So under this act, we have a statutory body called Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Authority. National Register of Plant Varieties. So we have a National Register of Plant Varieties in India. So contains the names of all registered plant varieties along with the rights of the breeders in respect of the registered varieties. Then we have something called National Gene Bank. So it is established to store the seed material, the genetic material as a bank, okay, including parental lines submitted by the breeders of the registered varieties. National Gene Fund, it is a fund utilized for any amount to be paid by way of benefit sharing, compensation payable to farmers, and supporting sustainable use of genetic resources. So that is about this Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act. Moving on to the next one, wildfires. So India's resolution on strengthening the global management of wildfires. So strengthening the global management of wildfires was adopted at 7th session of United Nations Environmental Assembly in Nairobi, Kenya. So recently in this assembly called UN Environmental Assembly, so India has submitted a resolution called strengthening the global management of wildfires, and it was accepted by this other countries in this assembly. So it is a good thing. It shows the leadership of the India. So what is this United Nations Environmental Assembly? It is the highest level decision making body. It is the United Nations decision making body on the matters related to environment. So if UN has to sit and take some decisions related to environment, it will sit as a form of United Nations Environment Assembly. Okay, it sets the global environmental agenda, provides policy guidance, etc. So almost all of the countries like of the UN are members of this. So there is a universal membership of 193 members. It was established in 2012 at the UN Conference on Sustainable Development. So in 1992, you will see a United Nations Conference. 1992. So after 20 years of that, sorry, this is to 1992. So after So after 22 years of that, now we had another meeting, United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development. So global management of wildfires. So let us see the basics about wildfires and how big of this issue is for India. So any unplanned and uncontrolled vegetation fire is a wildfire, regardless of ignition source, may negatively affect social, economic, and environment values and require suppression response or other action according to the agency policy. So this definition is given by FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization. It says any unplanned. So whatever the, if a human set up fire in a planned way, it is not a wildfire. Unplanned and uncontrolled vegetation fire, whatever the ignition sources, it may be like some lightning, it may be some heat, whatever the ignition source, unplanned, uncontrolled vegetation fire is wildfire. What are the major causes of wildfires? Mostly anthropogenic reasons. Okay, for 95% of forest fires, it is human related causes, anthropogenic reasons. Okay, especially this is in India. This data is given by Forestry Survey of India. So, like human related causes means like somebody having a cigarette and just throwing carelessly, etc. Okay. So other reasons are lightning strikes, dry vegetation acting as fuel. So in 2021 California, we have seen severe wildfires. Actually in 2025, we have seen much severe California wildfires. And then in Australia, we have seen, I think in 2022, something called bushfires. It is very, very severe. So poorly extinguished campfires, etc. So impact, global warming, wildfires being the largest source of black carbon. So global warming is happening for many reasons, primarily because of the CO2 we are emitting. Other than that, methane, etc. So many activities are causing global warming. One of that is black carbon. So what is the biggest source? Wildfires are the largest source of black carbon. Okay. So like if a question comes like volcanoes are the largest source of black carbon, it may be wrong because wildfires are the largest source of black carbon. Now loss of livelihood, impact on the biodiversity and plant animal species, climate change, public health. So these release of pollutants like black carbon, carbon monoxide also affects the public health. So these are some negative consequences of wildfires. Now what is the status of wildfires in India? Now this is given by Forest Survey of India. 54.40, almost 55% of forests are exposed to occasional fires. 7.492 moderately frequent fires. So occasional means rarely, okay, regularly. Next, 7.49 moderately frequent. So it is more frequent than this occasional fires. Then 2.40% is high incidence levels. Okay, so at 2.40, forest fires happen very frequently in the country. 35.71% have not yet been exposed to fires of any real significance. So some of our forest is not yet exposed to fires. Uttarakhand, Odisha, Chhattisgarh. See the states. Odisha and Chhattisgarh, eastern portion, Uttarakhand, northeastern, some northern portion. Okay, so what are the top 3 states with most incidents in 2023-24? So Uttarakhand, you will have this mountain vegetation. So these are the top 3 states with most incidents in 2023-24. Now that is about the wildfires. Let us move on to the next topic, La Nina and El Nino. So next topic is this, La Nina and El Nino. So let us read this news one, then we'll see the basis and we'll come back to it. The report finds 2025 the warmest La Nina year on record, making the findings significant as La Nina is cooler phase of ENSO, having a cooler effect on global temperatures. Okay, so 2025 is the warmest La Nina year. Okay, so a report is saying that. Now let us see what is El Nino, what is La Nina. So please see the map here. So all ocean circulation is in a way linked. So if you see the map here, this is South America, very, very important to understand the map. Okay, here you can see Australia. Here it is India. Okay, so this is Pacific Ocean. So in this Pacific Ocean, there is something called ENSO, El Nino Southern Oscillation. So it's a cycle. This movement, continuous movement, etc. These phases are called ENSO. It is a Southern Oscillation cycle. So in the ENSO means there are 2 phases, El Nino, La Nina. Sometimes there will be El Nino phase, sometimes there is a La Nina phase. So this continuous expression of El Nino and La Nina is called ENSO, okay, El Nino Southern Oscillation. So what is El Nino? So let us see El Nino. So if you see this Australia and this Southern America, South America, so this is the area is under focus, the Central Tropical Ocean. In the Central Tropical Ocean, if the eastern part, it is warmer. So what will happen? That means wherever there is warmer, their air will rise and it will receive rain. So here there will be more rains towards the South America. This Ecuador, Peru, these countries will receive rain. Now, these will be like opposites, usual opposites. So Eastern Pacific, if it is like Central and Eastern Pacific, if it is warm, this Western Pacific will be cold. So when this area is cold, so during at a colder area, you will not see clouds forming that much. So rain in this area will be limited. So the rain in this area will be impacted, including India. So in India, we will naturally have this monsoon. We will have something called southwest monsoon here. But if El Nino is forming, that means towards this Western Pacific Ocean, cold conditions exist. Temperature is low. And the Central Eastern Pacific, if temperature is high. So when we are at the cold end side, even our monsoon becomes weaker. This year, 2026, monsoon will start from June 2026. And our IM, Indian Meteorological Department, already told that this year is El Nino. But till last year, till 2025, we have seen many years of La Nina. Okay, so 2026 is changing from La Nina to El Nino. That is another current affair. Now, what is La Nina? La Nina is opposite to El Nino. So, take the Central Pacific Ocean. What if the temperature is cold here instead of warm? So, when something is cold, now they will not see any rains here. Here there will be droughts. the Western Pacific Ocean in Australia, etc. Now here there will be rain. So this is an extension. India is an extension. So India will see good rains. So during La Nina season, our monsoon actually gets good rains. Okay, so that is why during La Nina we will have rains, and La Nina is supposed to be a cooling space. It gives the temperature will be lesser, not warm, because there will be rains. So La Nina is usually cold phase, but still 2025 is seen as warmest among the La Nina years. It is the warmest. Now why it is happening? Obviously because of climate change. Okay, so let us read what is this El Nino Southern Oscillation. So it is a natural phenomena happening in the Pacific Ocean, where there will be different kinds of phases like El Nino and La Nina. So it is a recurring natural phenomena characterized by fluctuating ocean temperatures in the equatorial Pacific, coupled with atmospheric changes. El Nino and La Nina are the oceanic components, while Southern Oscillation is the atmospheric component. So El Nino, La Nina, we are talking about ocean. Now correspondingly something will happen in the atmosphere. Now that is called Southern Oscillation part. La Nina phase. It is a cold phase of ENSO when trade winds strengthen the pushing warm water further west towards Asia and allowing cold waters to rise in the Eastern Pacific. So Eastern Pacific will have cold water and cold weather, and west towards Asia we will have warm water and warm temperature, more rains during La Nina. Okay, so what is the impact on India? If it is La Nina, it is very beneficial for our monsoon. It brings normal to above rainfall, which supports agriculture. So La Nina is good thing for us. Winter triggers colder than normal winters. So because temperature is low, during monsoon we will get some reprieve, but winters become more cold. Frequently we will see cold waves in northern India. Extreme events, increased risk of floods and severe cyclonic activity in the Bay of Bengal. With more rains comes more storms, more cyclones, okay, more floods. Now what is El Nino? El Nino phase. It is a warm phase of ENSO where trade winds weaken, allowing warm water to move towards the South America, Eastern Pacific. And what is the impact of El Nino on India? It results in weak monsoon, southwest monsoon, leading to below normal rainfall. So because there is less rainfall, our agricultural yields will be less. They are suppressed. For summer crops like rice, sugarcane, potential increase in food prices. Inflation will be high. So El Nino results to inflation, heat associated with harsh summers and induced heat stress. So during La Nina, we can experience cold waves. But El Nino, because temperature is high, we will experience heat waves. So if you see in India right now, there are severe heat waves across the country. It is in the news. In April 2026. Okay. Now to related news, they are talking about Walker and Hadley circulations. So unusual cold seen across East, Central and South India, possibly linked to La Nina induced strengthening of Walker and Hadley circulation. So first let us see what is Walker circulation. East to west atmospheric circulation over tropical Pacific. Mechanism: warm air rises over western Pacific, moves eastward aloft and sinks over the eastern Pacific and returns westward as trade winds. Impact: influences global weather patterns, including monsoon and winter anomalies. So if we see now, this is what they are talking about. So this is like Walker circulation. Here, whatever happening in the ocean, we are talking about La Nina, El Nino. And what is happening in the atmosphere? Upwards on the surface. So usually this is what happens. So warm air rises here towards this sea here, Indonesia, Australia, that is the region, Western Pacific. So temperature will be rising here. Now it will be traveling eastwards in the atmosphere. Now after reaching almost this Eastern Pacific, now it will subside and come down. And it will come back as this trade winds, which you will read in geography. Okay, so this normal circulation is called Walker circulation. Then we have this thing. This is along the latitude. If you see Walker circulation, we are talking about along the equator, etc. So Walker circulation is horizontal. Now there is another circulation which is almost vertical, like along the latitudes. You see, I mean along the longitudes. So see here, so this is the equator. Between the equator and this Tropic of Capricorn, we have Hadley cell. Between the equator and the tropics, north and south. So Hadley cells, Ferrel cells, and polar cells, etc. So this Hadley circulation means this circulation from equator to this tropics, subpolar high, then coming down there and then traveling to equator on the surface again. So this circulation is called Hadley circulation. So Hadley circulation is the north to south meridional atmosphere circulation. Warm air rises near the equator, moves polewards aloft and sinks around 30-degree latitude and returns equatorward at the surface. Its impact redistributes heat, shapes trade winds and deserts and tropical rainfall patterns. That is about the Walker and Hadley circulations. You can see here. So other important news, decarbonization of key sectors. So decarbonization, that means like many sectors like steel, cement, aluminum, etc. These sectors, they use so much of carbon products like using coal as a fuel, crude oil or some kind of petroleum products or natural gas as fuel. So they will release so much of emissions, greenhouse gases, which are harmful for the environment. So we need to decarbonize them so that the emissions from these industries will be less. So to conserve our environment, we are taking various decarbonization steps. So Niti Aayog has released reports outlining decarbonization roadmaps for various industries such as cement, aluminum, MSME, micro, small, medium enterprises, smaller industries. So decarbonization, process of reducing, eliminating carbon dioxide emissions from an economy or specific sectors. So if you see the contribution to greenhouse gas emissions, cement sector almost causes 6% of India's greenhouse gas emissions. Aluminum causes 2.8% of greenhouse gas emissions. Okay. So see the recommended roadmaps. What are they suggesting? So take aluminum sector. They are saying renewable energy round the clock, RERTC. So they are asking to switch from coal power to renewable energy power. Okay. And adoption of nuclear power. And using this new technology such as carbon capture, utilization and storage. So carbon capture means you whatever the carbon you are producing, capture it, okay, utilize it and capture it. So using these methods, we are targeting at least 10% reduction from aluminum sector by 2030. Now cement. So in our previous topics, we have seen that there is something called refuse derived fuels. There also we have mentioned the cement. So through different wastages, we can produce some fuels like biofuel. Now, instead of using coal or natural gas, use this refuse derived fuel. Okay, it suits this industry. And clinker is one of the materials you will read in the making of the cement. So substitute for the clinker. Okay, again here also using carbon capture and utilization storage techniques. So through these methods, we can reduce almost 80 to 85% by 2070. Now MSMEs. National Program for Green Transition of MSMEs. There is a national program for dedicatedly for MSMEs for green transition. Energy efficiency, retrofitting energy efficient equipment, green electricity, green open access, PM Surya Ghar, etc. Alternative fuels, biomass, natural gas, compressed biogas, etc. So through different methods, we are increasing even so much of reduction from MSMEs also. Okay. Okay, so not much of prelims related news, just more of a knowledge thing. These kind of articles are very helpful in improving your general awareness, which will be very useful in like eliminating options. So next topic is about ozone layer and ozone hole. So Antarctic ozone hole closes early, indicating a steady progress in global ozone recovery. So we are talking about Antarctic ozone hole. So we call it ozone hole, but it is actually thinning of the stratospheric ozone. So we know in the troposphere, stratosphere, etc. So in the second layer, stratosphere, we know there is something called ozone O3, and it protects us from the harmful rays of the sun, like UV rays. And we have observed that actually in 1970s, 1980s, etc. Over the Antarctica, the thickness of this ozone is becoming very less, which is called ozone hole, and it has many negative consequences. So over the years we have taken many measures. Okay, Montreal Protocol, Vienna Convention, etc. So countries have come together and worked by eliminating the ozone depleting substances. Okay, so now we are seeing a steady progress in this ozone recovery. So once again, what is ozone hole? It is a seasonal. So during some particular months of the year, there will be severe thinning of the stratospheric ozone over Antarctica, mostly from August to November. Okay. In 2025, it peaked just over 21 million square meters, well below the 2006 record 29 million square meters. So the area of thinning is reducing. Stratospheric ozone, good ozone. In 2025, this stratospheric ozone, good ozone, is found at 10 to 40 km above Earth's surface and protect Earth from UV radiation from the sun. We know it. Causes of ozone hole, ozone layer depletion in Antarctica. So emissions from ozone depleting substances like CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, halogens, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, methyl bromide, polar stratospheric clouds, etc. So all of these are causing the thinning of the ozone layer. So moving on to the next topic, Paris Agreement. So USA officially left this Paris Climate Agreement. So if you see, so we know that we have this UNFCCC. This also came from the Rio Summit of 1992. We have seen in our previous environmental videos. So this United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or UNFCCC, it meets almost every year. So we have COP1, COP2, COP3, etc. So we have COP21 in Paris in 2015, and there they have adopted something called Paris Climate Agreement, okay, which entered in force in 2016. So this recognizes climate change as a global emergency. So there we have put some targets for ourselves, legally binding. So legally binding means they have asked the members to make their own targets. They did not give the targets, but what they have said, like various reports suggested that if we want to live peacefully on Earth, we should limit this increase in temperature we are causing below the 2 degree centigrade. And even at 2, there may be some harmful effects. So if we can limit below 1.5 C, it is safe and sustainable for everyone, even small island states. So because of these reports like this, knowledge of the harmful effects we are creating, so we have made a treaty which is binding, but the targets we choose for ourselves. India chooses for itself. So India came up with something called INDCs. So right now we are calling them Panchamrit. If you see, government is calling them Panchamrit. So there are 195 members, 194 countries plus EU as a members of this Paris Agreement. So what happened? So United Nations is a part of it, of course. Then in 2017, USA President Donald Trump in 2017, Donald Trump has become the president of USA, and he has withdrawn from the Paris Agreement. Then in 2021, Donald Trump has lost the election. Now this time, Joe Biden has become the president of USA. So he has rejoined in the Paris Climate Agreement. Now again in 2025, now Donald Trump became the president of USA again. Now again he has withdrawn from this Paris Agreement for the second time. Okay. Carbon border adjustment mechanism. So this is a European Union policy called carbon border adjustment mechanism. So what is it? It is like the world's first carbon tax. And why it is in news? Because it became effective from January 1, 2026. What it does, it imposes carbon related levies on imports from carbon intensive goods. So what is it? See, we know the whole world wants to move away from the pollution, but here main differences between countries is that why we are seeing global warming right now, why we are seeing climate change right now. It is because since the industrial revolution in the 18th century, so industrial revolution started from the 1760s, 1770s. So from that time till 1970s, 1980s, when we realized that environment, we are harming the environment. We started realizing this global warming, etc., everything in 1970s. So from 1770s till 1970s, for more than 200 years, all of these countries, especially Western countries, these countries which have colonized across the world, UK and these Western countries like USA, Germany, etc. So all of these countries, the industrialized countries, they have polluted the world like anything, and they have not bothered about it. They have polluted as much as they want. Their concern only was development and more industrialization, and they were able to do this for 200 years. See, on the other hand, so at that time, countries like India could not be industrialized because they have become the colonies of these countries. So UK industrializing, polluting the earth, but India cannot do any development or industrialization because UK is ruling India. So in 1947, India got independence. Many of the countries got independence in 1940s, 1950s, 1960s. But when we became independent, now we are free to industrialize ourselves. Now we are free to develop ourselves. In 1970s, 1980s, these countries started saying we are polluting the earth. Okay, earth is getting polluted. There is climate change. There is global warming. But who is to blame here? Because of whose actions we are in the situation? Obviously, these Western countries, developed countries. So they shall bear more responsibility. So that is a undisputable thing. Now, what is Western countries? Now they have developed enough, they have money, they have new technologies. So they are switching very fastly from this fossil fuels to like coal and natural gas, oil, etc. From fossil fuels to non-fossil fuels like nuclear energy, solar energy, wind energy, any other kind of new technologies, etc. So they are easily shifting because they have money, they have technology. But what about countries like India? It is hardly 80 years since we became independent. We did not even have the opportunity for half, and we are already compelled to control our emissions. So if you see, countries across the world have different targets. Like European Union has this target of completely stopping usage of fossil fuels, completely zero emissions by 2050. This is of EU, European Union. Okay, and many of the Western countries. Then China, which is also a developing country like India, but more industrialized than India. So China has put a target to become completely pollution free by 2060. Then what about India? India has set a target to itself that I will stop polluting that completely by 2070. Why 2070, sir? Because I am a developing country. I do not have much opportunity to develop myself industrially. So these European countries are already switching, and we are slow to switch. Now, what are these European countries are doing? Now they are saying, sir, if a steel plant is producing steel in a European Union, they are mostly using non-fossil fuels. They are using methods which do not produce much carbon. On the other hand, what is happening with India and many developing countries like India, you are using so much of fossil fuels. So you are polluting the earth continuously. So they have imposed a new type of tax where any products which were generated using so much of um, polluting technologies like producing of steel in India. Now, if they are entering the border of the European countries, now they will put some tax called carbon tax at the border. So let's say India is exporting steel to the EU and India has produced like 1 kg steel, let's say 1 kg steel produces 1 ton of CO2. Just for example, I'm saying. So they will, when you export 1 kg of steel, they will levy a tax equal to the 1 ton of CO2. So this is called carbon tax. Okay. So it is European Union policy to impose a carbon tax on imports of certain products from countries with less stringent climate policies. It is implemented in 2023, moves from traditional phase to full enforcement by 2026. Objective is to prevent carbon leakage by stopping firms from shifting production to countries with weaker climate rules. Sectors: cement, aluminum, fertilizers, iron and steel, hydrogen, electricity. Trade impact: Indian export of steels, aluminum, cement may face higher cost. Now, next one, Environmental Protection Fund. So what is this Environmental Protection Fund? So we have this Environment Protection Act, which is basis for the government to protect environment. Then we have Air Act, we have Water Act. So we have different kinds of act. We know government issues various types of rules under this act to protect the environment. Now what happens when people does not comply with the rules? Like we have seen previously that under Environment Protection Act, government has issued something called solid waste management rules. What if I'm generating waste but not complying to the rules? Like government is asking me to segregate the waste at the source, but I'm not segregating and mixing all the waste and giving to the municipality. So when I'm not complying, government will put some penalties, fines. Now what will happen to that money? Now that money is being formed under Environmental Protection Fund. Okay. So Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change notified Environmental Protection Fund rules. So they have notified rules, how this fund is formed, how it utilized, etc. etc. Okay, 75% of funds are remitted to states, union territories. So 75% of funds they're giving back to the states, and only 25% is retained by the center. So it is earmarked for monitoring networks, remediation of contaminated sites, research and development in clean technology. Okay. Managed by a project management unit and audited by the COG. Institutional capacity finances the strengthening of the regulatory bodies like CPCB, SPCB. So that is about the Environmental Protection Fund. Okay. CPCB, SPCB is Central Pollution Control Board and State Pollution Control Boards. Okay. So next topic is corporate social responsibility. So if you see the existing setup of this corporate social responsibility, so what is it? So all those companies in India who are having at least 500 crore net worth, that means net assets, 500 crores, and a turnover of at least 1000 crore or more, that means the business they are doing total is shall be at least 1000 crores, and net profit of the company to be rupees 5 crore or more. net profit of the company to be 5 crore or more. Okay. Um, so if you are meeting any of these three, okay, any of these three, not all three, if whether you are having net worth of this, whether you are having 1,000 crore turnover, if you are meeting any of these three, you have to provide 2% of your average net profit of the preceding 3 years. So last 3 financial years, the net profit you are getting, 2% of that you have to spend under various activities, which is called corporate social responsibilities, like eradicating hunger, poverty, malnutrition, promoting gender equality, environmental sustainability, etc. Like building schools, hospitals, etc. etc. Okay. So if you see in current affairs, one related current affairs is that government is trying to amend this Companies Act. So this CSR concept comes under this Companies Act. So government is trying to amend this act. A bill was introduced in the Lok Sabha and they want to make some changes like raising this threshold to 10 crore. Okay, it is not yet approved. It is still a bill. It is being considered. Now there is a Supreme Court case called Ranjit Singh and others versus Union of India. Okay, NK Ranjit Singh and others versus Union of India. In that, Supreme Court has stated this corporate social responsibility inherently includes environmental protection. Okay, so even though officially this document in this Companies Act might not say explicitly say environmental protection, but obviously environmental protection is included in the activities that can be done under CSR. That is what the clarification provided by Supreme Court. So, and that is why it is in news. So, what are key observations? Corporations as legal persons and key organs of the society are bound by the fundamental duty under Article 51(a)(g). So, Article 51(a)(g) mandates to protect and improve natural environment, including forest, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. Allocation of CSR for environment protection is a constitutional duty, not a voluntary philanthropic act. Where corporate activities threaten endangered species, companies must bear the cost of in situ and ex situ conservation based on polluter pays principle. So apart from this CSR, if the corporate activities itself are threatening any species, then that company has to bear the cost of that particular conservation of those species in situ, in that very location or ex situ, or in some juice or some other places. This is based on the polluter pays principle. Those who is causing the damage, now they have to bear the cost of recovery. So that is about the corporate social responsibility. So next is about UN Champions of Earth Award. So UN Champions of Earth. It is the highest United Nations environmental honor. It is awarded annually. Okay, annually since 2005. It is given every year. In the environmental field, it is the highest honor. Okay, it is given to individuals, organizations for addressing this planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution waste. Okay, these are called triple planetary crisis. The crisis, three crises planet is facing. One is climate change because of global warming. Okay, loss of nature and biodiversity, loss of the environment and species, and different kinds of pollution and wastages. So award given to this UN award is given to Tamil Nadu IAS office for pioneering leadership on critical environmental challenges including plastics and wildlife conservation. Now project Suncatcher. Okay, project Suncatcher. So it is a Google initiative for building solar powered satellite constellations. So you can see they are building satellites in the space to catch the solar power. So that is why it is Project Suncatcher. Capable of performing large scale machine learning computations in the space. Okay, so this Google has announced work on this long term research project called Project Suncatcher. These satellites will be equipped with Google Tensor Processing Units, TPUs. So to do these computations, whether it is a supercomputer on Earth or any kind of operations, this artificial intelligence So for these computations, we need massive power actually, massive power. So on Earth, power is limited. So what they are trying to do, because solar power is unlimited, it is renewable. Now they are intending to put this satellite constellation in the space itself. Okay, so it is a very radical idea, still in development. It is a long-term research initiative. What are the advantages? It reduces environmental impact of Earth-based centers. So no huge space occupation. Usually solar parks takes too much space. Okay, no consequences, no wastage, no electronic wastage, etc. Okay, reduces vulnerability to power outages, no overconsumption of electricity. Okay, data sovereignty as outer space is not subject to national jurisdiction under the Outer Space Treaty. Solar phase 2. Solar irrigation for agriculture resilience in South Asia. So the overall name is also solar, but here the abbreviation is solar irrigation for agriculture resilience. So it is a initiative that promotes solar power for irrigation in agriculture. Okay, in South Asia. So phase 2 of this solar initiative was launched to expand climate resilient solar irrigation systems across South Asia and East Africa. Okay, so if you see, phase 1 was launched in 2024. It is a multi-country initiative by India, Bangladesh, Kenya, Ethiopia. So these countries together is implementing this. It is implemented on ground by this International Water Management Institute and the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation. Okay, so for this first 5 years, this was phase 1. So phase 2 was launched in the November 2025. Its objective is to ensure equitable, sustainable access to solar powered agriculture for small and marginal farms. Next is pumped hydro storage. So UPSC has already asked this question. So pumped storage is related, is discussed in which context? Okay, it is hydropower. India to develop 100 gigawatts of hydro pumped storage by 2047 to stabilize its renewable energy surge. So what is this pumped hydro storage? So if you see, let me show you the image. So this is the pumped hydro storage. How this works? Like see, water naturally flows from top to bottom, up to down. It is fine. But in this pumped hydro storage technology, we will send the water from lower level to higher level. And why do we do this? See, in some seasons or on some days, we will have excess of solar power or any other power. Like take solar power. During summer, you can generate as much as solar power you want. There will be so much of the availability of the sun, so you can generate as much of solar power. On these days, it is not a big issue, but you will not get the same level of solar power during rainy season or winter season. So throughout the year, there are some days of surplus of solar power, there are some days of deficit of solar power. So what I can do, during summers I can generate the power I need, and also I can generate excess if I want. So I am putting some panels and I am transferring some water from lower level to higher level. So I need some energy to transfer to higher level, and now this energy is storing at a higher level. So it is at a higher level. So if you release it, it will come at very great speed. It has potential energy. So now this water is stored at a higher level. Now what will happen when the solar, like sun availability is in deficit, when I am not able to generate electricity through solar power, what I can do, I can just release this water downwards, down slope. So because it is down slope, now water will flow naturally because it is already storing potential energy. Now I can put turbines here, I can rotate the turbines with the water, okay, and I can generate electricity from it. So what I have done, I have simply stored the excess energy of the summer season till winter or rainy season. Okay, so this is how pumped hydro storage works. Okay, so India to develop 100 gigawatt of hydro power storage by 2047 to stabilize its renewable energy surge. Okay, so that is what hydro pumped storage is. So it is a large scale electricity storage technology that stores energy as a gravitational potential energy of water using two reservoirs at different elevations, low level, high level. During period of excess electricity, water is pumped from a lower level to an upper reservoir. When demand increases, the stored water is released back through turbines to generate electricity. Significance, grid stability and peak load management. Potential and status. India is currently installed capacity stands at 7 gigawatt. Present potential is about 267 gigawatt, which includes 58 gigawatt of on-stream pumped pumped storage power at 299 gigawatt of off-stream pumped storage power. Okay. So here on-stream PSPs means this on-stream means already there is an existing river or some lake something. If there is some stream already existing and I am using it as a part of my project, pumped storage project PSP, then it is on-stream. So I have to build two levels, lower level and higher level. If I use at least naturally existing stream for at least one level, then is PSP. If I build this to lower level and higher level completely without any existing stream, then it is off stream pumped solar project. Okay. Star labeling. Recently, government notified penalizing manufacturers of ACs, TVs if their actual energy consumption deviates from declaration in the energy star label rating. So first you have to understand one thing. There is something called Bureau of Energy Efficiency. So as in the name itself, it is a bureau to promote energy efficiency. So to reduce the usage of energy as much as possible without compromising the productivity. Okay. So wastage of energy shall be minimized by this BEE. For that, it issues many guidelines, etc. It is a statutory body formed under this Energy Conservation Act 2001, and it is under the Ministry of Power. Okay, it is under the Ministry of Power. Now, it implements various schemes. One of it is standards and labeling program with an objective of reducing energy consumption of appliances, enable consumers make informed choices. So what it does, it gives labels or ratings to more than 40 equipment, like star ratings. Take refrigerators. So if it gives some 5x5 or 4x5 to a refrigerator, it means it is a very energy efficient refrigerator. The electricity bill to you for the usage of the refrigerator will be very less. If it is a 1/5 or 2/5 refrigerator, it will be less energy efficient. It will be consuming so much of the power. Okay, so in this way, they give a 40 equipment. If you want to see to what equipments Bureau of Energy Efficiency gives ratings, these are refrigerators, deep freezers, air conditioners, ACs, fans, televisions, washing machines, chillers, electric geysers, distribution transformer, tubular fluorescent lamps, LED lamps, induction hob, solar inverter, domestic LPG stove, etc. So this is important, domestic LPG stove, because it is in news that there is LPG crisis. So even for domestic LPG stoves, Bureau of Energy Efficiency gives rating under the standards and labeling program. And there are some voluntary appliances also where you can get rating, like general purpose industrial motor, computer, microwave oven. So for some appliances it is mandatory, for some appliances it is voluntary. So this is the existing setup. Now what government is saying, there are some ACs and TVs manufacturers who are getting like the samples they are giving to the Bureau of Energy Efficiency for rating are very good, but the actual products they are selling, they are not very energy efficient. So government is warning these people that we will penalize you if your actual energy consumption deviates from the declaration. Okay, so that is about the star labeling. Now let us come to the National Energy Conservation Award, NECA 2025. So Chandigarh ranked first for the energy conservation and efficiency. So still we are talking about energy efficiency. So we know this Bureau of Energy Efficiency under Ministry of Power. So of course it is the responsibility having the energy efficiency. So it is giving annually these awards. Okay, National Energy Conservation Award. This year it was given to Chandigarh. Okay. So as I told you, this Bureau of Energy Efficiency implements various initiatives. One of it is this star label rating. Okay. Standards and labeling program, and there is another one called State Energy Efficiency Index. So it ranks states based on energy efficiencies. Okay, so under this it has given Chandigarh this award. Okay, so under the State Energy Efficiency Index, it evaluates states UT's energy efficiency across buildings, industry, transport, municipal sectors. So this State Efficiency Energy Efficiency Index is a comprehensive national assessment framework developed by Bureau of Energy Efficiency with Alliance for Energy Efficient Economy, APPSC. Now battery pack Aadhaar number. Battery pack Aadhaar number, BPAN. So government has issued draft guidelines for this battery pack Aadhaar number. So what is battery pack Aadhaar number? So it is a indigenous digital identification and data storage system to ensure end-to-end traceability of batteries throughout their entire life cycle. So just like we humans have Aadhaar numbers, which can be used for our digital identification, like when you are buying a SIM card, okay, or when you are entering an office. So our digital identification right now is being done by Aadhaars, and it stores our data. So in the similar way, they are introducing Aadhaar, some unique ID system, unique identification number to batteries. Okay, it includes a unique identification number for each battery pack, capturing and storing vital information from extraction to final disposal. Because as we have seen in one of the previous video, in the previous topic, so e-waste disposal is also very important thing. Okay, it is very sensitive thing. Battery categories required to maintain this battery pack Aadhaar number include electric vehicle batteries and industrial batteries with capacity greater than 2 kilowatt hours. So there is a minimum threshold. So batteries of large size, more than 2 kilowatt hour, they have to maintain this number. Kutanad wetland agricultural system. So there is something called Kutanad wetland in Kerala. So it is a complex mosaic of fragmented agriculture landscape divided into three structures: wetlands used for paddy activities and fish catching, garden lands used for food crops plantation, water areas used for inland fishing and shells. It is the only system in India that favors rice cultivation below sea level. Okay, so that becomes very important. It is the only system in India that favors rice cultivation below sea level in land created by draining delta swamps in brackish waters under globally important agricultural heritage systems of FAO. So FAO maintains something called globally important agricultural heritage systems. Under this Kuttanad wetland agriculture system exists. So soil test done in this Kuttanad paddy fields showed increased aluminum levels above safe limits. So these wetlands are getting polluted. Aluminum becomes more soluble and toxic as soil pH drops below 5. Excess levels damage roots and disrupts uptake of key nutrients such as phosphorus, calcium, potassium, and magnesium. Next article is Tsunami Ready Recognition Program, TRRP. India to have 100 villages to be tsunami ready under Tsunami Ready Recognition Program by UNESCO. It is by UNESCO based on verification by the National Tsunami Ready Recognition Board. Okay, so first we have to understand this UNESCO's Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission. So it is a body established in 1960. Its secretariat is in Paris. Its aim is to promote international cooperation in marine sciences to improve management of the ocean, coast, and marine resources. It has membership of 152 states, including India. The Ocean Decade, in charge of the coordinating the UN Decade of the Ocean Science. So this ongoing decade is the decade of the Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, the Ocean Decade. So now you know this Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, which is working for this cooperation in this management and improvement of ocean, coast, and marine resources. Now let us read about the Tsunami Ready Recognition Program of this UNESCO's IOC. So it is an international voluntary community-based effort by this IOC to bolster risk prevention and mitigation across global coastal routes. Tsunami Ready village is certified to ones with high awareness about tsunami. So those villages which are prone to tsunami, they will be certified. They will be provided with high awareness about tsunami. Measures will be taken for hazard preparedness and mapping. Public display of evacuation maps, 24-hour warning systems, participation in mock drills, etc. Currently, 24 coastal villages in Odisha have been recognized under TRRP by UNESCO based on the verification by the National Tsunami Ready Recognition Board. So India also has something called National Tsunami Ready Recognition Board. Okay, so this is a body under Ministry of Earth Sciences. So Director of Inquiries is the chairman to this body, National Tsunami Ready Recognition Board, and members from this inquiries, NDMA, MH, etc. Okay, so it is a body under Ministry of Earth Sciences. So how they decide these villages? They have 12 preparedness indicators for consistent evaluation, and recognition is renewable for every 4 years. Okay, so we got to know about this National Tsunami Ready Recognition Board, and we got to know this Intergovernmental Oceanic Commission and its Tsunami Ready Recognition Program. Okay. Next topic is National Project for Strengthening Community-Based DRR. So DRR here stands for Disaster Risk Reduction. Okay, so it is a community-based disaster risk reduction encouraging initiative. So National Project for Strengthening Community-Based Disaster Risk Reduction Initiatives in the Panchayati Raj institutions has been approved with an outlay of 507.37 crore. About this national project, its aim is to integrate a disaster risk reduction into local governance through bottom-up approach, positioning Panchayati Raj institutions as the backbone of disaster preparedness mitigation and resilience at grassroots level. Joint implementation. It is jointly implemented by Ministry of Panchayati Raj and National Disaster Management Authority (NDMA). So see, it is a disaster risk reduction initiative, but here we are also seeing Ministry of Panchayati Raj because it is a Panchayati Raj institutions based bottom to up approach initiative. So it covers 20 states across India, covering 81 disaster prone districts. It has cluster based models where 20 gram panchayats in each district will be covered as a cluster, and model gram panchayats, 20 gram panchayats, one per state to be developed as model gram panchayat, focusing on 6 specific hazard themes, flood, earthquakes, etc. So through various programs, they are encouraging people to participate in this disaster risk reduction. Atlas of Climate Adaptation in Indian Agriculture. So it is a new digital platform. Atlas of Climate Adaptation in Indian Agriculture has been launched, marking 15 years of NSERA. What is this NSERA? It is the National Innovations in Climate Resilient Agriculture. It was launched in 2011 by ICAR, or Indian Council of Agriculture Research, to demonstrate climate resilient technologies on fields. So we know there is climate change is happening. It is impacting agriculture also, because under high temperature now crops will lose productivity. The crop season will be finished very early, so the growth will be incomplete, quality gets compromised. So there are many impacts of climate change on agriculture. So we have to build climate resilient technologies to make agriculture sustainable. So for this ICAR has started National Innovations in Climate Resilient Research in 2011. Now it was 15 years. So it has given an atlas, like a map of how this climate adaptation has done across India. Okay. It was developed by ICAR-led National Agriculture Research and Extension System with Borlaug Institute of South Asia. Support location-specific data-driven adaptation planning for climate-resilient agriculture. Help government determine investments required for climate risk mitigations, etc. Okay. So, Sir Madhav Gadgil is in news. Okay, because he recently passed away. So he is a renowned ecologist. So when you discuss about Western Ghats, when you read this geography in Western Ghats or environment, you will frequently hear his name. Okay, Gadgil Committee. So about this Madhav Gadgil, he was born in 1942 in Pune. He was India's one of foremost voices on ecology and on environmental protection. He founded Center for Ecological Sciences at IISc Bangalore in 1982. His efforts led to the establishment of Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve in 1986. He chaired the Western Ghats Expert Ecology Panel in 2010 and recommended that entire Ghats to be declared ecologically sensitive in graded categories. So he tried to include as much of area as under the Western Ghats, actually, which was not acceptable to many people, because many people, just like Aravalis, as we have discussed in previous topic, if you take a broad definition of Western Ghats now, many people are not happy with the losing of the commercial limits. Okay. Served as a member of the Prime Minister's Science and Technology Advisory Council, was one of the architects of India's Biological Diversity Act, involved in implementation of Forest Rights Act. Key awards and recognition: Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, and Tyler Prize for Environmental Achievement, World Environment Prize, United Nations Environment Program, Champions of the Earth Award. Okay. So there is a ship of Coast Guard, Indian Coast Guard ship. called Samudra Pratap. It was commissioned in Goa. It was indigenously designed pollution control vessel. See, why a ship was mentioned in this environment section? Because it is a pollution control vessel. Okay, it's not to attack enemies. It's not to do commercial business. It is a indigenously designed pollution control vessel. What is its name? Samudra Pratap. So, question gonna come like this: ICGS Samudra Pratap, which is recently in news, is related to what? It is a nuclear powered ship, etc. It is a ship accompanied with ballistic missiles, equipped with ballistic missiles. Okay, like that, it is a ship roaming around the earth, etc. They will give some options, but right answer is it is a pollution control vessel. It is the first of the two pollution control vessels being built by Goa Shipyard Limited. And who is building it? Okay, not Vishakhapatnam, not Mumbai, it is Goa Shipyard Limited. Operation Thunder. So 30,000 live animals were seized under Operation Thunder 2025. Okay. So Interpol, International Police, and World Customs Organization, with the support of International Consortium of Combating Wildlife and Forestry Crime, they have seized 30,000 live animals under this Operation Thunder 2025. So it is like across the globe. It is conducted in these 30,000 animals. They are not caught in any single place at a single moment. So throughout 1 or 2 months, like September, October 2025, across 134 countries, Interpol and this World Customs Organization and this International Consortium on Combating Wildlife and Forestry, so they have conducted this wide Operation Thunder. Okay, so it resulted in massive seizures, including over 30,000 live animals. Okay. Tamil Nadu CBMRB system. So what is a CBMRB? Community based measurement, reporting and verification system to build a people led climate intelligence movement. It is launched by Tamil Nadu. So it is introduced as a pilot program in 2023 under UK PACT program. It empowers local communities to collect, validate and report climate and environmental data. See, the intention here is to gather climate and environment data. So for that we are including people. So people are using maybe some apps or some portal, they can collect, validate and report the data. Okay, which will be very useful. It primarily targets blue carbon resources like mangroves, measuring factors like pH and carbon content, etc. Okay. So our next topic is rangelands and pastoralists. So what is this rangelands? So rangelands means these areas traditionally where animals can go and forage, they can graze this open land having native vegetation where they can go and just graze on the natural land. It is not a human created land and it is not a forest. So in the forest animals cannot graze. So in those open areas like grasslands, these steppes of Central Asia, it is a grassland, African savanna grassland, Alps, okay, these shrub areas of Alps, etc. So Pyrenees of Europe, Andes, South America, Great Plains of USA. So wherever there are natural open vegetation which is available for animals to graze and forage, they are called rangelands. Okay, so rangelands and pastoralists. Pastoralists are those people who um, domesticate animals and they move on along with they raise the animals and usually move along with the animals. Okay, so they take animals from one place to another place for foraging, etc. So they survive on animals. So this is about the rangelands and pastoralists. So let us read the news. So UN has declared 2026 as International Year for Rangelands and Pastoralists. Okay, so that is why it is in news. So rangelands cover around half of the Earth's land surface like grasslands, savannas, shrublands, deserts, wetland and or mountain areas. Key examples we have seen: significance, preserve unique fauna and flora and provide essential services including carbon storage and water regulation. Pastoralists are those who raise animals, contribute to food security, hold diverse cultural heritage and local indigenous knowledge. Okay, so small tiny news. Next comes the living road bridges of Meghalaya. So first, let me show you this. Like if you go to Meghalaya, it is not much seen in other areas, but if you go to this Meghalaya state of India, you will see these kind of bridges. As you can see in this image, it is made from natural trees, especially rubber trees, the trees from which we make rubber. So those kinds of trees, some tribes in Meghalaya, what they do, they guide these trees over the years. They specifically manually guide the direction of the trees over the years continuously in such a way that it forms a bridge like this, and it can be naturally used by people as bridges. They are very strong and sturdy. Okay, so this living bridges, the tradition is very unique to Meghalaya. Now we have UNESCO. UNESCO prepares various types of lists like World Heritage List, okay, Biospheres List and wetlands list and this intangible cultural heritage list, etc. So it maintains many types of list. One type of list is World Heritage List. Now India has submitted its nomination to include this Meghalaya's living road bridges and to give these living road bridges a World Heritage status. Okay, so locally they are called this Jinkiang-jri, okay, or Liu Charai. Okay, so this landscape is called Jinkiang-jri or Liu Charai landscape. So they are Indian rubber tree, okay, based rural connectivity and livelihood solutions with the dense subtropical moist broadleaf forest ecoregion of Meghalaya. So you can understand why they have developed here, because Meghalaya is one of those regions which receive very high rainfall. Because Meghalaya receives very high rainfall, it is naturally necessary for them to do these kind of innovations. Okay, so grown by indigenous Kasi tribal communities. Okay, sometimes seen in other tribal communities also, but Kasi tribe is very famous for them. So use these living structures include bridges, ladders, steps. So it is not just bridges, ladders, steps, which provide reliable mode of transport, platforms and towers for recreation and security, erosion and landslide prevention structures, etc. So they use these trees for various purposes. Like literally, they are using these trees as natural infrastructure. Construction techniques: trees planted on both river banks. So on that side of the river, this side of the river, they will plant. Roots are manually guided, twisted and interwoven. Areca palm trunks, bamboo, stones used as scaffolding. And that means to guide the direction in which is desired. They will use other kind of trunks, bamboos, stones, etc. to manually guide those trees. It takes 10 to 15 years to become fully functional. Okay. Nature-based solutions. So we have this United Nations Environment Program, which is a UN entity, and it has released a report called State of Finance. So the state of finance in the world towards the nature. Okay, State of Finance for Nature 2026 report. So it is talking about global finances, and it says that global financial, the present finance is kind of having an imbalance. It highlights a global financial imbalance in spending skewed towards nature negative finance in comparison to the nature positive finance. So what is nature positive and nature negative finance? So if you see those investments which promote environmental conservation, which are pro nature, positive to the nature, they are nature positive finances. Like nature based solutions. Okay, like nature based solutions, see here examples given. So at global stage, under UNCBD, we have made a framework called Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. I think this we have seen in our other environment videos. Okay, normal PT environment videos. So under this we have some targets. Okay, 30% of land and sea by 2030, etc. So towards these kind of framework, if someone is providing finances, then it is nature positive. Okay. If you see in India, we have a Misty scheme to protect the mangroves. We have Amrit Dharogar to conserve the Ramsar sites, okay, wetlands. Okay, so when you invest in these kind of things, it is nature positive finance. Now, what is nature negative finance? Their investments potentially degrade natural infrastructure, environmentally harmful subsidies. Like if you are putting investment into some coal plant, it is a nature negative finance. So this report says that as of now, most finance is going towards nature negative. Okay, that is why there is a global financial imbalance. Okay. So what are these nature-based solutions in which we need more finance? Nature-based solutions leverage nature and the power of healthy ecosystems to address societal challenges through actions to protect, sustainable, manage and restore natural and modified ecosystems, benefiting people and nature at the same time. So like example, protecting and restoring coral reefs, building greener cities, etc. Okay. Now let us come to this Doomsday Glacier. Doomsday Glacier. So let me show you the picture. So we have so many glaciers across the world. Okay, in Himalayas there are glaciers, in Arctic there are glaciers, in Antarctica there is glaciers. Okay, but see this particular Thwaites Glacier in this Antarctica, in this southwestern part of Antarctica. This Thwaites Glacier is very important because it is one of the largest glaciers of the world, and we are seeing a rapid warming in this region. And now this is the specific image of that glacier. So it is very important that it has so much impact on the global sea amount of water. If it gets melted, sea level will increase very much. So this glacier, changes in the glacier are very much worry to the world. So that is why it can have such an impact that we call it Doomsday Glacier. Okay. So if this glacier gets melted, it is one of the rarest events from which we cannot come back. So there is a glacier called Doomsday Glacier, and it is in Antarctica. Its official name is Thwaites Glacier. It is called so because its potential to significantly add to worldwide sea levels is one of the fastest changing ice ocean system on the planet. The complete melting of the glacier could add 65 centimeters to the global sea level. See, it can almost raise the global sea levels more than half meter. So a study showing growing cracks in this Doomsday Glacier ice, indicating a possible collapse of Antarctic ice shelf. Okay. So that is the news. So where is this Doomsday Glacier? It is in Antarctica. Next, water bankruptcy. A report by UN University Institute for Water, Environment and Health highlighted that planet has entered the global water bankruptcy era. So there is a UN report. It says that the planet has entered into something called global water bankruptcy. So what is water bankruptcy? So water bankruptcy is a persistent post-crisis condition of human water system in which long-term water use has exceeded renewable inflows and safe depletion limits. So the amount of water available and naturally recharging in the earth ecosystem, our usage is beyond that, almost like that groundwater article we have seen. So beyond the safe depletion limits, we are using water, so causing irreversible or effectively irreversible degradation. Okay, so reports highlight that now this time is called water bankruptcy because we are bankrupting the water. Report highlights that the part of the natural water capital like rivers, lakes, aquifers, wetlands, soils and glaciers have been damaged beyond realistic prospects of full recovery. Now many things are getting damaged like this Doomsday Glacier and groundwater. Now it is almost looks like we are not able to recover. Okay? In contrast, water stress is a condition of high water demand. When you say water stress, so here we are differentiating between two terms, water bankruptcy and water stress. If you are saying water stress, it is a kind of lesser situation where it is just meant that it is a condition of higher water demand related to the supply. Okay, but impacts are largely reversible, and water crisis is where shock driven disruptions temporarily push water systems beyond capacity but can be restored through emergency and restored measures. Okay, but water bankruptcy is an irreversible form of water stress. Biobitumen. So India became first country to commercially produce biobitumen in road construction. So what is this biobitumen? So if you see this is called bitumen, this black thing which is used in the road construction. This is what bitumen. Okay, how do you make this? When we take this crude oil, from crude oil through distillation by boiling it to different kinds of temperatures, we get different kinds of products. At some temperature you will get kerosene, at some temperature you will get petrol, at some other temperature you will get diesel. Okay, so different kinds of product we make from crude oil, from petroleum. So this bitumen is also one such product which you will get from the processing of the crude oil. Now this is made using minerals. Crude oil is a mineral, and we need so much of bitumen. We are importing crude oil. We are importing so much of bitumen from many other countries also, because India is a rapidly uh, expanding economy. So we are constructing more and more roads, highways, etc., new expressways, etc. So we need to reduce our dependence on both crude oil and bitumen. So that is why Government of India is working towards biobitumen. Okay, what is biobitumen? It is an alternative form of bitumen manufactured from organic elements like agricultural wastage, lignin, biochar, bio-oil, etc. So instead of crude oil, we are using biological products. Which one is the black substance produced through distillation of crude oil, known as adhesive properties, known for adhesive properties. Benefits: reduced crude oil imports, address issue of stubble burning, boost boosting bioeconomy. So why it is addressing issue of stubble burning? So after harvesting of the crops, the leftover is the stubble. So farmers don't know what to do with the stubble, so they are burning, which is causing severe air pollution. So it is a very big issue, especially for Delhi. So if you can prepare bitumen from this stubble, now farmers can also get some money from the stubble. They will not burn. So it is a win-win situation for everyone. So used as an addition to bitumen or to reduce the quantity of bitumen in the binder mixture. Okay. So biobitumen you can mix with the normal bitumen also. Okay. So applications: paving roads, waterproofing, etc. Next, biostimulants. So biostimulants provide a green solution for sustainable Indian agriculture. So there is something in news called biostimulants, and they provide green solution. That means sustainable solution for Indian agriculture. So what is this biostimulant? See, we give some enhancements to the plants like crops, like fertilizers. So when you give fertilizer to a crop, why you are giving fertilizer like urea? So plants have a very poor capability to take nitrogen from the soil or from the air. So plant capability is limited. So you are providing nitrogen artificially. This is fertilizer. Now here we are not giving fertilizers. Here we are giving stimulants, and those are biostimulants. Okay, not chemical stimulants. Now what are these? Now these are the substances or microorganisms that stimulate the natural plant processes. That means it will not give example. For example, with the nitrogen example I'm saying, it will not give nitrogen to the plant. It will enhance the capability of the plant to take nitrogen. Okay, so you're not giving artificial nitrogen. You are helping the plant to gain some more capability. Its natural process is stimulated. Okay, it is strengthened. It is improved. So it is not famous for its nutrient content. It is like a catalyst. You are only expediting or improving natural processes. So these are biostimulants. Enhance nutrient uptake. What are objectives? To enhance nutrient uptake, boost stress tolerance, improve crop quality, support resilience under dynamic climate stresses, etc. So regulated under Fertilizer Control Order FCO 1985. So example is BioPET, PLA, etc. Okay. Next is bomb cyclone. So recently a bomb cyclone hit the northern US, triggering severe winter weather. So first of all, understand it is a cyclone, and when it hits an area, what is causing? It is causing the reduction in temperature, winter weather. Okay. So what is this bomb cyclone? So when a mass of low pressure air, that means a cyclone, meets a high pressure process known as bombogenesis. So normally what happens when a low pressure area comes, a low pressure area forms as a cyclone, so it will just travel like that and it will hit the land. We call it cyclone. But if it meets a high pressure area, now that is called bombogenesis, characterized by rapid pressure drop in low pressure mass by at least 25 millibars in 24 hours. This increases the pressure gradient and makes the wind stronger. So when they come together, winds become very, very strong. Occurrences most commonly originate in the western and north Atlantic because cold air from the North America clashes with the warm air over the Atlantic Ocean. So where do you see this bomb cyclone phenomena? Usually in this America Atlantic area. Okay, so let me show you the picture. So this is like the recent bomb cyclone. So you can see the US here, Florida here. So when this cyclone hits, cyclone on this Atlantic hits the colder high pressure area of USA. Now this is the bomb cyclone area. River deltas. So study finds that 7 major deltas, Ganga, Brahmaputra, Nile, Mekong, Yangtze, Amazon, Irrawaddy and Mississippi account for about 57% of total subsiding delta area worldwide. So river deltas, a depositional feature. So first let us see this deposition river deltas, then we will see the why they are sinking, why they are subsiding. That means they are going below. River deltas are a depositional feature, like river comes here, now when it is meeting the sea, now it will divide into these distributaries. Now this is what we are calling delta. Okay. So depositional feature formed as rivers empty their water and sediment into another body of water such as ocean, lake or another river. For a delta to form, the flow of river must be slow and steady enough for silt deposition. Hence, not all river forms delta. Like fast flowing rivers does not form delta. So if you see the western coast of India, like Narmada, Tapati, so most of the western rivers, they on the western side of India, they will not form delta because they are very fast flowing. They are not slow enough. Occupy just 1% of the land area of Earth, support around 6% of global population. So these are like one of the preferable areas for global habitations and host 10 of the world's 34 megacities. Okay, like Calcutta. Okay, this Egypt, Cairo. Importance: ecosystem services. What are the importance of these deltas? They provide many ecosystem services like water filtration, important wetland habitats like in the Ganga Brahmaputra Delta. In the Ganga Brahmaputra Delta, we see mangroves. Okay, very famous vegetation. Lilies, hibiscus grow in deltas, flood and storm protection, etc. So why they are sinking? Key reasons for sinking of river deltas: because excessive groundwater extraction. We are extracting groundwater too much, so the land is sinking, land is subsiding. Okay, reduce seasonal silt deposits. So the silt which they are depositing traditionally, now in the modern times, now the silt is reducing. Amount of silt they are depositing is reducing, possibly because of humans causing reasons and climate change. Okay. Now let us move to international organizations in news. So there is an organization called International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, in news. 16th session of this IRENA assembly concluded in this Abu Dhabi, UAE, with the adoption of IRENA's medium-term strategy 2023-27 evaluation and work program. So what is this IRENA? It is an intergovernmental organization. So here the members are government, not NGOs or companies. It is an intergovernmental organization that supports countries in their transition to renewable energy. So helping countries in their transition to renewable energy is its objective. Okay, for sustainable development, energy access, climate action. So it started in 2009, entered in force in 2010. 170 members are countries, including and EU. India is also a founding member. Key functions: promotes renewable energy adoption, provides policy advice, capacity building, and technical assistance. Official custodian to track progress on UAE consensus. So there is something called UAE consensus, in which they have taken some goals, and it will these goals on reducing the climate change. Okay, the COP28 of UNFCCC. So I think it is also in Abu Dhabi, COP28 in UAE. So there they have adopted something called UAE consensus, where we have some goals or targets for various kinds of initiatives like shifting into renewable energy. So whether countries are meeting those targets or not, who will track the progress? It is nothing but IRENA. Okay. And what are the reports it releases? World Energy Transitions Outlook. Okay, renewable energy and jobs annual review. Okay. So this IRENA itself is headquartered in the Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi is also its headquarters. Okay. Now IMD, Indian Meteorological Department, headquarters is in New Delhi. It started in 1875. It is under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. What is its mandate? To forecast meteorological information about the weather, okay, weather and climate, and warns about severe weather phenomena like heat waves. Right now, IMD is frequently issuing various warnings about heat waves across the country. So 1875, that means by 2025, it has finished 150 years. Okay. So IMD celebrated 151 in 2026, 151 Foundation Day with deployment of 200 automatic weather stations across 4 major metropolitan cities in line with Mission Mausam. Okay. So what is this Mission Mausam? It is implemented by IMD and Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology and National Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting. Okay. So what is this Mission Mausam? So it is a initiative of Ministry of Earth Sciences aimed at improving weather forecasting accuracy. Okay, so that is why it is being implemented by IMD. Now some reports, indices in news. Now there is something called Global Carbon Budget 2025. Who are implementing it? Who are publishing it? Global Carbon Project. UPSC is asking these kind of things recently, so this makes it very, very important. So what are the key highlights of this global carbon budget? India is the third largest emitter of carbon at 3.2 billion tons. Third largest emitter. So who are the top two? So first one is USA, second one is China. Oh, sorry. First one is China, highest emitter. Second is USA. So see, China 12 billion tons, USA 4.9, and we are at third place 3.2. So we are not even half of the China. So global methane status report. It is published by UNEP, Climate and Clean Air Coalition. Climate and Clean Air Coalition. Highlights progress made since the launch of Global Methane Pledge, a voluntary framework to reduce methane emissions by 30% by 2030, okay, compared to 2020 levels. But this Global Methane Pledge is not signed by India. launched on the, because if we sign it, we have to put so many restrictions on our agriculture. Agriculture is one of the sectors where methane is produced so much from the this belching of animals, etc. Okay, from the rice fields, etc. So we did not sign it, but this UNEP and Climate and Clean Air Coalition's report actually it tracks the various. It highlights the progress made in this global methane pledge, reduction in global methane emissions. This global methane pledge actually launched on the sidelines of COP26 of UNFCCC, okay, in 2021 by this Climate and Clean Air Coalition. Emission gap. Emission gap report 2025 off target. So emissions gap report released by UNEP. Even the updated nationally determined contribution pledges under the Paris Agreement could lead to global temperature rise by 2.3 to 2.5 degrees centigrade by this century. We want to limit preferably by 1.5 or at least 2 degrees. So even if all the NDCs we have agreed, even if we actually implemented this report of UNEP saying still our temperature will cost 2.5. Okay. Global environmental outlook, a future we choose. So this global environmental outlook is released by UNEP. So what are the key highlights? Greenhouse gas emissions increased by 1.5% annually since 1990. Globally, 9 million deaths attributed annually to some form of pollution. Now, next news is Arctic Report Card. What is Arctic Report Card? So it is a report released by this NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. This is of USA. Okay. So National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration of USA. It released something called Arctic Report Card. So it says Arctic surface air temperatures are highest on record since 1900. So even Arctic temperatures are rising. Arctic is actually literally like it is ice on the sea. See, there is a difference between Antarctica and Arctic. Antarctica is a land, it's a land continent, physical continent on which you have this ice and permafrost and other glaciers. On the other side, Arctic is actually ocean. Because of the cold, now ice is forming on the Arctic. There is no land in the Arctic. Okay. So Arctic is more sensitive to the temperatures because there is no land beneath it. If the temperature gets high enough, all the ice will just get melted. So last 10 years are 10 warmest ever in the Arctic. So consistently temperatures are rising in the Arctic because of climate change. Now there is a phenomenon called Atlantification. Okay, what is this Atlantification? So influx of warmer lower latitude waters into the central Arctic weakens the ocean stratification, accelerating ice melt and threatening ocean circulation patterns. So in the world there is Atlantic Ocean between this Europe and USA. Now on the top we have Arctic Ocean. Now the temperature of this Arctic is increasing and it is melting and it is becoming like this Atlantic Ocean. So this is what they are calling Atlantification. Rusting of rivers. So we have heard rust of iron, but what is rusting of rivers? So thawing permafrost releases iron, turning water orange in over 200 Arctic Alaska watersheds. Harming fish and local water supplies. Okay, greening of the Arctic. First detected in the late 1990s. It is a long-term increase in the productivity and abundance of tundra vegetation, impacting landscapes, wildlife, biodiversity, permafrost, and indigenous livelihoods. So let us see this. So you can see here, because of the release of iron, how these water bodies are converting into this color. It is called rusting of the river. So here it is described that this rusting of the rivers is a growing environmental phenomena in the Arctic, particularly Alaska. So this is a phenomena especially very impactful in the Alaska, where thawing permafrost exposes ancient minerals to oxygen and water. So when this iron gets exposed and it is interacting with oxygen and water, rust is formed, okay, releasing acid and metals. This process turns bright orange and lowers their pH, threatening aquatic ecosystems and water quality. Since 2019, this has affected over 200 sites. Okay, this is a major problem in Alaska. Now, greening of. So Arctic greening, this is another problem mentioned in the article. So it refers to the widespread increase in the plant biomass. You can see here, how this northern part is turning into green. This is actually tundra vegetation where you will see only rare vegetation like mosses, lichens, etc. Widespread increase in the plant biomass, shrub density and productivity across high latitude tundra, driven by rapidly rising air and soil temperature since 1980s. This phenomena characterized by shrubification. So new and more number of shrubs are coming to this tundra region, and longer growing seasons is particularly evident in Alaska, Canada, and Western Eurasia. So what we are seeing, because there is a continuous climate change, there is a definite change in the climate of these areas. Okay, new kind of phenomena we are seeing. And then coming to the next one, the report on circular economy, e-waste, circular economy of e-waste and lithium-ion batteries. So we have already seen what is circular economy. Now e-waste and lithium-ion batteries. So released by Niti Aayog in collaboration with the Energy and Resources Institute, TERI. This report was released by Niti Aayog and this theory. So circular economy is a model of production and consumption which involves sharing, leasing, reusing, repairing, refurbishing and recycling. This we already know. Existing materials and products. So key observations. Approximately 78% of India's total e-waste, which is electrical and electronic waste, is processed by the informal sector. So we are recycling, but we are processing it, but most of it is being done by informal sector. That means these rag pickers, etc. They are not doing formally through companies, etc. Okay, informing the government who is working, how much they are getting paid, how much is being processed every day. Okay, so it is being done informally, majority amount, achieving material recovery rates of only 10 to 20%. So we are recovering only 10 to 20%. Okay, compared to 90 to 97% usually done in the formal facilities. Okay, so this is a big issue. Coal 2025. So this Coal 2025 report is released by International Energy Agency. Okay. What are the key findings? Coal share in India's electricity mix projected to fall from over 70% to 60% by 2030. So see, right now we are producing electricity from various kinds of sources. It is called electricity mix, like from 70% with coal, some 5% with natural gas, some 10%, let's say, using big hydro projects, some another 5% maybe solar power. So different kinds of, so from sources we are generating electricity. But as of now, predominantly coal is the primary source for generation of electricity, 70%. Now we are taking many actions to move from fossil fuels to non-fossil fuels. So this report is saying, this coal report released by International Energy Agency, it will fall to 60%. Okay. World Nuclear Outlook Report. So released by World Nuclear Association. Global nuclear power capacity. Global nuclear power capacity to surge 1446 gigawatt by 2050, surpassing 1200 gigawatt target under declaration to triple nuclear energy. Declaration was launched at the COP28 meeting in Dubai. So this COP28 is actually in Dubai. Okay, it is also in UAE. 5 countries: China, France, India, Russia, and US would account for 980 gigawatt of global capacity in 2050. So again, as a part of shifting from non-fossil fuels to non-fossil fuels, because fossil fuels are polluting, so you can say nuclear energy is a non-fossil fuel, and it is non-polluting, but it has other type of risks. Okay, managing nuclear waste, etc., safety issues, etc. So anyway, if properly operated, nuclear energy can help in the energy transition. So many countries many countries wants to invest so much into the nuclear energy. If you see, government of India also recently has passed an act called Kranti Act to allow private participation in the nuclear sector. Okay, so in this COP28 meeting, we have adopted a declaration to triple the nuclear energy. So that is why this report is saying that our nuclear capacity is expected to surge even beyond the normal targets. Okay. State of the world's land and water resources for food and agriculture. State of the world's land and water resources. Okay, so land resources, forest, mineral resources, water resources. Okay, for food and agriculture. Okay, so food and agriculture. Okay. And the state, what is the state? What is the state? How much we are utilizing it? This report is released by FAO. Okay, so obviously, food and agriculture is Food and Agriculture Organization. By 2050, increase in global production require agriculture to produce 50% more food, feed, and fiber than in 2012, alongside 25% more fresh water, while expanding agriculture areas no longer viable. So now population is increasing continuously. So at the present rate, by 2050, first of all, we need 50% more food, we need 25% more water, and by 2050 now there is no area left to expand agriculture. Okay, so over 60% of human induced land degradation occurs on agriculture lands, and agriculture accounts for more than 70% of global freshwater withdrawal. Okay, so we are utilizing so much of fresh water, groundwater for agriculture purpose. Okay, then by using fertilizers, etc., and with the climate change, we are degrading the natural land. So 60% of human induced degradation actually occurs in agriculture land. Actually, we are supposed to increase our food output with the growing population, but we are destroying the quality of the agricultural lands, and we are all exploiting the water resources. So food and water resources we need more, but our habits are not conducive to that requirement. Next, Global Environmental Outlook is released by UNEP. So it was already given here, Global Environment Outlook. So it was repeated. Next, enhancing circular economy of end of life of vehicles. See, so Niti Aayog is releasing various reports on enhancing of circular economy. Here you are seeing a circular economy report on e-waste, okay, and lithium ion batteries. Here we are seeing a circular economy report on end of life vehicles. So on these vehicles, like cars, okay, buses, etc., when they reach end of life stage, when they were used for like 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, now what will happen to that vehicle? It is also a wastage. It is a huge wastage consisting of so many chemicals and metals, very hazardous. So this end of life vehicles load is expected to double from 23 million in 2025 to 50 million. So 23 million means almost 2.3 2 crores 30 lakhs. Okay, so it is expected to improve to 5 crore vehicles by 2030. So end of life vehicles, now this is also wastage which needs to be disposed of properly. Okay, end of life vehicles are vehicles that no longer validly registered, declared unfit by an authority, or voluntarily declared as waste by the registered owner. Okay, so that is with the environment part of this updated section. Okay.